Hello and welcome, everyone, to the Double Bill Podcast, a podcast with two film lovers discussing two films. My name is Michael Smith, and alongside me, as always, is Jacob Deering.
How's it going?
Today, we'll be just talking about the Planet of the Apes trilogy, more specifically the final two installments, as they have correlation to Matt Reeves' The Batman. To help us discuss this film, an avid fan of this trilogy, an avid fan of Batman, the one and only, our friend, Justin Keller. How's it going?
Hello. Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What's up?
So I've been itching to get on this podcast. I had to jump through hula hoop after hula hoop. Finally, I made it. So it just shows you work at your dreams. You can accomplish them.
We booked Matt Reeves. It's okay.
Yeah. And he dropped out. He was like, you guys are too big leagues. So I'm going to give you a friend of mine, Justin Keller. And I said, thank you, Matt. I appreciate you. So yeah, I've been loving movies for a while. I didn't go to football games. I went to the movie theaters. So I guess you could say this has been my life for a while. And I like collecting Blu-rays. Like literally, the collection that I have is obscene and crazy. I could be on an episode of Hoarders. And basically, I just needed to express my opinions because nobody wants to listen to you. You know, when you get a girlfriend, you just want to tell her everything in the world. And she's like, I don't care about your bonus features. I don't care who directed this movie. I don't care if that's a wide shot or a close up. I just care, is it a good story? So finally, these two said, hey, man, do you want to tell us your opinions? And I said, of course I do. And then they go, do you want to talk about Apes? And I'm like, yes, of course I do. Of course. I love Mark Wahlberg. And they said, no. We're talking about Matt Reeves' Apes. I said, oh. Then by all means, I'll be on your podcast because those are phenomenal. So here we are.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm excited because, you know, me and you checked out War for the Planet of the Apes whenever it first came out. We did the double feature of Dawn and
Triple
War.
feature.
I think I missed the first one. The first one because I only saw both of them, but that was a 3D show. I think I showed up later and saw the second one and third one, and we had like a very bad projector issue for the third one. I think second one. Yeah,
not to show my hand, but the best one. We had a projector problem. Nerdy little tidbit, I guess you would say. 1 and 3 Rise and War are at a 2:3:5 aspect ratio. Dawn is at a 1:8:5, and the screen that it was being projected on was a 2:3:5 screen, a scope screen. And when they showed a 1:8:5 film on a 2:3:5 screen, it basically looked like a box in a box.
Yeah.
And then it was in 3D as well. So the 3D worked inside of the box, but it didn't fill the screen. Killed Dawn for me for a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I think I took a nap. I was so annoyed, you know, because they couldn't fix it, right?
They couldn't.
We had to just say,
and obviously that was 2017 when that happened. So I didn't feel the need to go up there and be like, hello, I'd like to speak to a manager about the projector system.
We had no idea. We were still young.
So we didn't do that. So we had to sit there and watch Dawn in a box, inside of a box, a bigger box. Yeah. God, but Rise and War, incredible. Good stuff. Yeah.
Back in the day, whenever we used to be able to just go and watch movies all day long in 3D, and now.
Well, that's another thing about me. I'm the big 3D apologist on this panel. These two could care less. I still am one of the 5 people in America that own a 3D television and still buy 3D movies on Blu-ray. I love the format. I'm going to be there until the ship goes down. I'm the captain of the 3D ship, and I'll be there. I'm still waiting on Shang-Chi in 3D and Eternals in 3D, but yeah, I'm gonna be there until my dying breath. And also, I have seen Dawn and War since watching it with these two again in 3D. So I've seen these films twice within the span of 3 days.
He's ready.
So I'm very ready, and I can tell you
the entire time that we were watching this movie together, this man was probably just sitting there like, God damn, I wish it was in 3D.
Dude,
yeah,
probably zoned out.
You know,
there's a scene where Caesar sticks his hand out to give it to someone, and I leaned over to Mike and I was like, you know, that's gonna be a lot better in 3D. You know what I'm saying? But I've seen these films twice over, so
That's good.
I'm fully prepared.
That means you're extra prepared. You should have a lot to say. Did you watch the commentaries?
You don't watch commentaries. I'd like to say that for the record. You listen to commentaries. I did not.
Yeah, I think that argument has gone on between us forever and ever and ever. And I think, as you can tell, I do not care. People will say watch because you watch movies, and you're going to be watching the movie as you listen to the commentary. So saying watch commentary, you know what I'm talking about.
I can't wait for people to watch this podcast because there's
wait, listen to this podcast, right?
Are you telling me that we're on Spotify? Tell me more.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we've been on
Spotify.
But not on Apple Podcasts.
Not yet.
You could listen to this podcast. Anyways, so that's a little bit about Justin. We are obviously super excited to get to talk about that. But before we get into that, a little bit of interesting stuff happened yesterday. For those that listen and know movies and follow, awards season to be going on, and one of the bigger awards shows that kind of tell where the Oscars is headed, especially for the acting categories. The SAG Awards came out last night. That is the Screen Actors Guild Awards. It was a very, very, very interesting turn of events, to say the least. In my experience from watching the SAGs and all of probably the last 10 years, I've been watching all the award shows for the last 10 years, and they're freaking exciting. Not so much lately just because of COVID and a little other issues, not having a host and stuff like that. Goddamn cat. But essentially the SAG Awards kind of play their hands into the Oscars acting categories and what the acting voters are thinking, because the ones that voted the Oscars for the acting categories are the actors. So seeing that win, whoever wins at the Screen Actors Guild Awards kind of plays its hand for who's going to win at the Oscars for the actor. But this award scene has been very interesting because a few of the people that won two of the people that won this year at the Screen Actors Guild Award hadn't really won much at the major awards so far. So let's dive deep into that. I thought that was very interesting. Let's just start off with in order. We're going to only be talking about the movies as of right now. I'd love to talk about all the TV shows, but no one has seen any of those TV shows besides Succession. I wish I could, but it's only about the movies today. So to start off, we'll start off with in order. Best Supporting Actress went to Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, which I think that has been a shoo-in for the Oscars.
Yeah,
from day one. She's won everything, so I think that she's a shoo-in. What do y'all think?
Yeah, there's no surprises there for me. It's kind of one of those things I sort of expected to see as we go through all the awards. Whenever it comes to Oscars, that's my pick for who's going to take it away.
Yeah.
Looking at the list of nominees right now for it in the 5, including her, she does seem like your safe bet.
Go ahead.
Out of those 5.
Yeah, go ahead and list off the rest of the nominees for people.
Okay, so the first one that we have is for Belfast, and that is Katarina Balfe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Cate Blanchett for Nightmare Alley, Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog, and Ruth Negga for Passing on Netflix, and then Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Out of those 5, she does seem like your biggest shoo-in. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she has the most, and again, the Oscars, the SAGs, they're all about that big showy performance to a certain extent. We'll get into that when we talk about Best Actor. But for me, there's the ending sequence in that film of West Side Story where it's her and the main lead in that film, who's the girl? What's her name?
Rachel Zegler.
Rachel Zegler, thank you. Them two have a great scene together. Her America sequence is also really, really good. She has a lot to work with there. Not saying anybody else doesn't have a lot to work with, but I think when you do that Oscar reel, when they go, and here's Kirsten Dunst in Power of the Dog, and then they give you that 20-second clip. I feel like she's going to have the most meat to work off of in terms of hers, and I think she actually gave the best performance. So for me, yeah, there's not much else to say about this one. This one's pretty much a safe bet. You can put good money on this one.
So next up is Best Supporting Actor, and this one kind of go ahead and list off the nominees, and the winner of this one kind of shocked me a little bit. I'm not mad about it or anything. It's a very good thing that this happened, and it kind of shows kind of where the Oscars might be looking towards. But Troy Kotsur,
so you're talking about
Coda,
supporting actor. Okay, supporting actor. So to start it off, you got Ben Affleck in The Tender Bar, Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Tony Kutsar for Coda, Jared Leto for House of Gucci, and Cody Smith-McPhee for The Power of the Dog. So
that's the one, because the other three obviously are not nominated for Oscars, but Cody Smith-McPhee and Troy Kotsur are. And the idea has been Cody Smith-McPhee is going to be the winner of the Oscars, which is interesting because Troy Kotsur took this one, which is kind of interesting.
So I haven't seen Power of the Dog. That's one of my holes in my Oscar category.
He's good. He's good.
I also haven't seen The Tender Bar. I feel like that one just flew under the radar real quick. There was no like big hubbub about it. It was just kind of The Tender Bar, and then it kind of flew on out.
And what happens with a lot of these streaming movies nowadays, they sort of just they release. They don't really get that marketing. I know I haven't seen a single trailer for Tender Bar. I'm checking it out before Oscars rolls around. Once I check off on my to-do list.
It's not nominated for any Oscars, but you should
I'll check it out anyways.
Yeah, you should still watch it, but it's not nominated for anything.
So
consider we went down a list together.
Yeah, because it fell under the radar. It kind of it wasn't. But the only thing that could have been nominated for that was Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
but obviously he was not.
And then, so taking Ben Affleck off the board for a moment, because none of us have seen The Tender Bar. I guess we'll go to the next person, which is Jared Leto in House of Gucci. I'm a big Jared Leto apologist. I'll stand by that man for a long, long time, no matter how crazy he gets, no matter how weird he gets. Even I can admit he's a little much in that movie, but I still like him a lot. I think he's really fun. And like every time he came on screen, like I sat back up in my chair, I straightened my posture because I was like, oh, now this is some acting happening here, because he's hamming it up a lot, but he's really fun. I don't know if I'd stick my neck out for him in terms of if I was on SAG, would I nominate him? I don't know.
He wasn't nominated for an Oscar, right? I think
he was not.
Yeah, he got shut out.
Yeah.
I mean,
so if I was there,
his performance is good. Yeah, it's great. But I think the knack against House of Gucci is like it feels like every actor is acting in a different movie, and they're all trying to upstage each other, and it's like, no, this is one movie. So it's a great performance in some other movie somewhere, but not this one.
And then the next one is Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza. So obviously you guys have already talked about Licorice Pizza. I'll give my 2 cents real quick. I'm not a fan of that movie. I know what it's about. I appreciate it. I'm never going to sit here and tell somebody not to watch it. Just for me, it didn't connect. But even I could admit, the moment Bradley Cooper comes out on screen, the movie gets me going again. So he is the standout of that movie. So if anything, I know Lana Heim didn't get nominated, and what's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son's name?
Cooper Hoffman.
I know he didn't get nominated either. For me, if you were going to give an acting nomination to anybody, I would be totally okay with Bradley Cooper and Licorice Pizza. So for me, I'm totally okay with that too. But obviously he didn't win. But to me, he is the shining part of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people agree. I didn't know you weren't a fan of that movie. I thought we had talked about that you liked it, but certain moments, like it wasn't your favorite movie. That's interesting. We'll talk about it later off podcast. I agree. I would have liked to have seen Bradley Cooper nominated, but
Or Bradley Cooper win? Or you mean nominated in the Oscars?
At the Oscars.
Okay.
it's kind of weird that these categories are kind of like polar opposites with the nominees. You're only
because
getting 2 carryovers. But yeah, it's
because I
interesting.
still feel he was robbed in, what was it, 2019 Academy Awards? Because when Rami Malek took it away from him in Bohemian versus A Star Is Born, I mean, you could watch both those movies. Ben Affleck, Bradley Cooper gave the better performance out of him versus Rami. So for me, I'm still salty about that. So do I have a conspiracy theory that the Oscars hate Bradley Cooper? Kind of. I do. I'm just gonna keep it real.
I mean, he's got a long way to get to that DiCaprio status of like, damn, dude, you still don't have an Oscar. What the fuck?
Well, when
He's
we
got
go
time.
to Best Actor for the SAGs, we'll realize why that one got what it did. But then you get to your other two, which is Troy and Cody.
I think you'd be in the minority, but I know what you're talking about. Let's move on. Let's move a little quicker so we can get to our main piece. You don't have to list off the nominees or anything, but Best Actress went to Jessica Chastain, which was very interesting to me because she hadn't won much, but I know that she had been campaigning a lot to at least even get nominated for an Oscar, which she did. But for her to win, that was kind of interesting. I think she was shocked as well. You could see it on her face. She was very, very shocked. But yeah, I would have given it to Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, but that's based on the past award shows. I haven't seen The Lost Daughter, but based on the past award shows, I would have thought it would have been her. But interesting. I haven't seen Eyes of Tammy Faye either, so maybe I need to check it out.
It's one of those low-key movies. I've been saying this since we talked about the Oscars. This has been a very low-key just award season to where it feels like a lot of the ones that flew under the radar whenever they first initially released, they didn't get that much attention, but now they're starting to get that love once it's time for award season, and hopefully that'll bring some love to their films as people check it out out of curiosity. That's something that I've honestly appreciated about this Oscars is they haven't been, or not Oscars, just award season, is that they haven't been afraid to not shy away from the ones that haven't gotten that box office success, and the ones that feel like they should be a shoo-in for the Oscars. This was a variety.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. I think streaming is a big problem, because you got to watch these movies on all these different platforms, and it kind of hurts them. And I know As Tammy Faye was probably in theaters for a week, and then got put on Hulu. It'd been on Hulu forever, but I know it was in theaters for like a week or something back in October or November, and no one went to go see it.
I forget what we were watching whenever it came out. So I know that we went to Stonebriar to go watch a movie, and I saw that it released. I didn't even know it was it released yet. I thought it had another month, and then by the time it was time for me to check it out in theaters, it's gone. Got Thanos snapped away.
Then we move into Best Actor, and Will Smith took this away, which I think he's been taking it away all award season, which I think he's probably has the best chance to win the Oscar, and I'm excited about that. I think that's a very good thing, and I can't wait to watch King Richard. Will Smith deserves this. He's never won an Oscar. Yes, hasn't he? He won. No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't.
Maybe for Ali, but
that's what I was thinking for Ali, but I don't think he won for that.
No.
So I think what you're about to say, Justin, is like, oh, he's just getting it because that's his apology. People are just saying, all right, fine, let's give it to him.
Well, I don't think it's an apology. I think apology is the wrong word. I think it's his. You remember when Leo won for The Revenant? That was their way of saying, hey, man, we're sorry we snubbed you for this, this, and that. We know you need an Oscar under your name, whether it's one or two. We're going to give you at least one. I mean, we can all sit here and say Leo's been great in movies. The Revenant isn't Leo's top tier movie. It's just the movie where they said he's good. Don't get me wrong. He's great in The Revenant.
The dude ate a fucking squirrel or whatever. What was it?
He ate a liver of a deer.
Dude,
he went balls to the wall, dude.
Yeah, that's a
he did his ass off.
But there are better Leo performance.
People got mad at him. People got mad at him because they started saying he's not even acting anymore. He's fucking like actually dying out in the woods.
Yeah. I think honestly, purposely, like the only time I've ever really seen that, where I didn't really watch it then, but that I've like noticed that that's happened, is Martin Scorsese for The Departed. I think the whole world will agree he should have won Best Director for a lot of the other nominations, but he won for The Departed. I think that was literally just like an apology to say, here you go, bro, we fucked up. Here you go. For Leo, like the dude absolutely deserved that. Like there is no doubt about it. And I'm sure Will Smith deserved it this year because, you know, I mean, Will Smith is kind of like not, he's everyone's favorite person in the world, but he's not Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, he's back to acting. Like Will Smith this is what he's best at.
He's been nominated 3 times, including this one. 2002 in Ali, 2007 for Pursuit of Happiness, and then this year for King Richard. If you were to just give me those 3 movies to watch and say out of the 3, which one should he get an Oscar for? 100%, I would say Pursuit of Happiness.
I knew exactly where he was going.
All different movies.
I knew exactly where he was going.
No, Pursuit of Happiness is good, but yeah, no, I mean, for me with King Richard, I just say the problem is just sort of like that. It's that biopic formatting. You know, I think a lot of biopics struggle.
But that shouldn't hurt the acting.
But yeah, I mean,
that story.
You come to, whenever you go to watch these Oscars, you know, you're not really looking for the story. You're looking for, you know, how well can this actor encapsulate this person? You know, you being engrossed in their life. This is one of the few, you know, Will Smith performances other than Ollie in Pursuit of Happiness, which he got nominated for, to where it just felt something truly transformative for Will Smith. Because like whenever you look at his action movies, you know, he's playing that charismatic Will Smith. That's, you know, it's sort of like how, you know, whenever Dwayne Johnson, he's playing any movie that he's in, you know, he's playing himself. Or Ryan Reynolds the exact same way. Just Will Smith, he's able to turn it on and off like that. And so, yeah, no, if he gets the win for the Oscars, I'm absolutely here for it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that alone can help the Oscars kind of get popular again, because Will Smith is everyone's favorite dad. Like he is our generation's like guy. We grew up.
Not to go off, not to veer off track, but when you talk about that'll bring people to the Oscars, most people did not watch the SAGs. They're gonna go to Google and search up SAG Awards 2022, get a list of the winners. They're probably not going to watch the Oscars. They're probably going to do the same thing that most people do for SAGs and things like that. People who are not in the bubble of film. I don't think the Oscars could do anything to make themselves relevant.
I mean, that's not what I said. I never said they're making a comeback. I said they had their.
Well, you're saying if they give it to Will Smith, that's going to draw more eyeballs to them.
It does, because the problem with the Oscars the last few years and why the ratings have dropped is because they're nominating movies that no one has ever seen. And so you're talking about a movie like King Richard that everyone probably saw besides me on HBO Max.
This is different though, because the majority of these movies are streaming movies.
I'm just saying that last year was historically bad for them. If they somehow get lower than that, that's a fucking problem.
Especially for this year. No,
I didn't even watch it last year.
But even then, it doesn't matter if people are watching SAG Awards. It still makes notoriety through press. Yeah. If people start hearing, okay, Will Smith is taking away the awards, that's a name that people recognize. I mean, if we're
but are they watching the award show? They may know it, but are they watching the actual broadcast?
We will see.
I think you're taking it differently than what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that the Oscars are making a comeback. They have to dramatically change. That's why they're bringing in the Twitter Oscars fan favorite thing. They have to dramatically change, which I think they're trying. But I'm saying nominating people like Will Smith, who has been nominated in like every award show, helps, because people want to see Will Smith win. They don't know any of these other actors, but like, oh my God, if they see Will Smith win, people are going to turn the channel. And, you know, if they're watching sports and they hear Will Smith win, they're going to try to turn to the Oscars and be like, oh my God, Will Smith. And that helps. Every little rating helps when people turn to that channel. So that's all I'm saying is Will Smith kind of like brings a massive draw to people. The other movies, yeah,
well, the two others that matter, like,
I would say
the most would be Tick Tick Boom and Power of the Dog. Those two are your other heavy hitters. Javier Bardem for being the Ricardos, okay. Denzel Washington for the Tragedy of Macbeth, okay. But to me, your big three are Benedict, Andrew, and Will.
Yes, those are the three that have a chance. Mainly Benedict and Will.
Andrew Garfield and Will Smith, I would argue, have the best story to win the Oscars, which is the unspoken thing that plays into who wins is who would tell the better story. I think that Andrew Garfield just had a bit of a comeback year with, just returning to the highlight of stardom. He's been playing some low-key roles, Timmy Faye included this year. But especially, with Spider-Man No Way Home releasing, it's brought back sort of that nostalgic love for Andrew Garfield and what he brought to a lot of, the younger generation. So whenever they see his name, especially, Gen Z, I think that might bring, a little bit more attention to the Oscars than we give credit for. So for me, I'd say it's between Will Smith or Andrew. If I were to have to pick, though, I'd say right now Will Smith. But I mean, I love my boy Andrew. I'd love to see him pick away a win too. So it's no complaints there.
And speaking of the Oscars and Planet of the Apes, bringing it all, when are they gonna recognize motion capture? We'll get into that another episode.
For real.
All right, let's get right into Planet of the Apes. But before we do, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, let's dive right into it. Planet of the Apes. Now we ended up watching Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, obviously because this is part of our Batman month, getting prepared for the Batman. We're watching Matt Reeves. That's why this is kind of like an emergency early podcast that we normally don't do this early in the week. But, you're going to get a few podcasts from us this week, one of the Batman, one of Planet of the Apes. So it's going to be really exciting this week. There's a lot coming. So, the reason we didn't watch Rise is not because it's a bad movie, not because we don't like it. It's simply because, if you look at the trilogy as a whole, and we can talk about that right now. If you look at the trilogy as a whole, you do feel and see a distinct difference in directors and in action and in story and all that. And so I've always said, and I know Justin will disagree. I'm not sure about you, Jacob. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I've always said that you can watch this trilogy without the first one. It does show you. I know that the second one has scenes and information from the first one that would be nice to have, but they point blank explain it to you. They show you. You don't have to have seen that emotional ride that they went through in the Rise to get this one. And that's kind of, one of the things that works in the favor of the Dark Knight. You don't have to have seen Batman Begins to really love that movie. And I know a lot of people nowadays don't even watch Batman Begins. If it's the first time they've ever seen Christian Bale's Batman, they don't even watch Batman Begins. They watch The Dark Knight right out of the gate. And that's kind of the same thing with here. Is this Planet of the Apes trilogy was like the next trilogy after Dark Knight trilogy that kind of just focused on making a great film each time around and not so much making a continuous story. It was just always about making a great film that introduced new characters, new people, and new things. So what do y'all think about the trilogy as a whole?
It's one of those films that it does stand on its own. It looks like Justin disagrees a little bit, but I think it's just sort of I think there's different visions from whenever it switched over to Matt Reeves with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or I'm sorry, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. With just the direction that they wanted to take it. The other thing that I sort of saw that had that carryover was the simian flu, being teased, but it was it was less about humanity, I think, and more so about Caesar in this film, allowed to have that transition as we have this balance between, two main leads.
Yeah.
Which is something that I appreciated to see, is because, I think that having humanity take a role in it, it still allows it to have, that familiarity, that humanity, but it transitions over to Caesar, from Jason Clarke to Andy Serkis in a way that feels natural and succinct, to where, we can start rooting for the apes rather than the humans as we form that bond. I think that this film was extremely important, especially for that finality, with War for the Planet of the Apes, to where we can fully switch sides because we understand this character journey much more. I think that, it was very natural. You start with James Franco taking that center stage with, his relationship with Caesar growing up. And then as Caesar breaks away from James Franco after he died due to the simian flu, there's a greater connect. It's a greater transition to where you can have that broad storytelling trilogy wise, but like Mike said, it's, each movie is its own, which is important for a successful sequel.
Yeah. And I'll let you get your open thought really quick, but you think you hit it on the point. It's like Rise of the Planet of the Apes was a human story with James Franco at the front and center. Even in the final battle, you see James Franco's point of view of Caesar, not Caesar's point of view of everything. And then Matt Reeves comes in and he takes the helm and he's like, no, if we're going to make Planet of the Apes movies, we're going to make it about the apes. And that's a really cool thing. So what's your opening thoughts, Justin, about the trilogy?
So I guess my best way to describe it is, when was the last time you guys saw Rise? Because obviously you didn't do Rise Dawn War. So when was the last time you guys saw it?
I saw it probably 3 months ago. Yeah, I watched it about 3 months ago, because I was going to do the trilogy before we started this podcast, but it didn't work out.
For me, probably about a year ago. It's been a minute.
It's okay, because the thing is, this whole trilogy is about Caesar. So therefore, you're missing a whole chapter of Caesar. So I agree and disagree with you guys to a certain extent. I hate when people do that, when they play both sides, but I'm gonna play both sides for a second. If this story wasn't about Caesar as a whole, then sure, you could leave out Rise. But Caesar is the main character in Rise, he's the main character in Dawn and War. So therefore, you guys missed an entire journey with this character. You guys jumped in mid-journey.
But that's where I would argue
you already know the journey because you've seen Rise, but I'm a completist at heart. I believe that if you're going to see, you're going to hate this example, if you see Fast 9, you need to see Fast 1 through 8 one more time before you jump into Fast 9. When you see Fast 10, you need to watch 1 through 9 to get to 10. I know you're going to cut this out, but you just have to see the entire series from thick and through. You can't cherry pick your favorites, or even the ones that the director said, well, this is a soft reboot. Sure, I agree with you. Dawn and War can stand by its own. If you bring in Joe Schmo off the street, you don't need to be like, hey, before you get into Dawn, you got to watch Rise. Even though I do think Rise is one of the strongest first chapters of a movie trilogy ever made. Like, it is such a tight movie. It's only an hour and 45. The movie flies by. They hit you with so much information in the first hour that when they get to that summer blockbuster in the final 40 minutes, give or take, you're fully on board. Now, sure, is it a logical leap? Yeah, I guess so, because there's not much action in the first hour. It's mainly story. But when you get to that final 40, it's such a relief to see Caesar come into his own and go, you know what, I was abused. A lot of my other apes were tortured and things like that. It's time for us to rise to where we should be. So for me, I do strongly think you need to watch Rise before Dawn and War, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Being a completist, watching a trilogy, yeah, I fully agree with that. I think in aspect of what your goal is to get out of these movies. For us, it was the Matt Reeves. I think that to watch these movies, and I think we had a few people whenever we all watched it together that hadn't even seen Rise, and they never even asked, "Is there a first movie?" They never asked. We never mentioned there was a first movie. We never mentioned it was a trilogy. They just knew we were watching 2 movies, and they weren't confused. They just were able to watch it all the way through, and it made sense. So I'm saying, like, in the retrospective, like, what we were trying to accomplish, we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish with watching that. But I do think that for people that would like to watch one of the better trilogies to come out for blockbusters in the last 10, 15 years, yes, watch the whole trilogy. But for a Matt Reeves discography, it doesn't hurt you if you're trying to just watch Matt Reeves movies. Yeah. It doesn't hurt you to miss Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It really doesn't. And you absolutely get told what happens in Rise. But the thing that I would disagree with you on is that first movie, like me and Jacob had said, is James Franco's movie. I don't think Caesar is the main character in that one. I think he becomes the main character because it is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And towards the end of the movie, he takes control. But everything is told from James Franco's point of view. It's a human story rather than the ape story. And that's where Matt Reeves comes in and switches it up.
Well, yeah, James Franco is the main character in the first 40 to 50 minutes. And then after the middle point, we do switch point of views, and it is mainly Caesar. James Franco and Frida Pinto take a back seat to Caesar, to Andy Serkis. So yeah.
Even, I mean,
and then it becomes a blockbuster at that point, which is
but a really, really good blockbuster. Like
I'd say that my point is looking at, you know, all of the Planet of the Apes movies that came before this trilogy, you know, this is, you know, acting as that prequel, but whenever people are familiar with the Planet of the Apes, you know, franchise as a whole, we've only seen it through, you know, human perspective. It's something that, you know, I think is new and was a little bit too bold to have fully in the hands of Caesar, Andy Serkis, you know, through this film. And so, yeah, I mean, it is a rise. It's allowing us to shift gears, but for, you know, having majority of the film be through James Franco's lens, that's the director saying, okay, look at this as a human rather than, you know, from an ape perspective, to have that hook. And that's where there is a distinct switch up from, you know, Rise to Dawn is, you know, we are through Caesar's perspective the entirety of Dawn as opposed to Rise.
So Planet of the Apes trilogy, I think we left off kind of talking about, you know, where each one kind of lies and where everything falls in place. Yeah, I think let's dive deep, you know, a little bit into, you know, Dawn and War. You know, at the end of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, pretty much Caesar gets what he wants and he can live in the forest with all his apes, and he frees his apes and they succeed. So no more humans, right? So enter into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, our main focus, our double feature for the week. Directed by Matt Reeves, written by Mark Baumbach and Matt Reeves. And so this film, I saw it in opening weekend whenever it came out in 2014. And it blew me away. Blew me the fuck away. I went and saw it the next day with my mom, and it kind of just like reminded me, and I was still like studying films, and I still am to this day, but kind of getting into films at that time. But it kind of just reminded me that, you know, blockbusters didn't have to be the way that we'd gotten used to it. It was kind of like, oh my God, they can still be this different type of film that doesn't have to have the same tropes, the same stakes, the same, you know, main course, which is like, you're going to open up with the good guy, and it's going to end with a final battle, and the good guy is going to come out on top. That's not how this movie ended. You could think that's how it ends, but that's not how it ends. Technically, Caesar fails at the end, which we'll get into. But I think that this is a very, very, very strong film. Matt Reeves' third film in his filmography, and arguably his best so far. I think the only thing for me that plagues the film a little bit, for me personally, is the script is a little weak at times. The dialogue could be better, but they definitely fix it in War for the Planet of the Apes. But I usually have no complaints for this film. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, for this film, it was kind of one of those movies, you know, whenever I was younger, you know, that showed me what a movie could be. And it's so strange that it's a movie about apes, and them trying to, the sort of this battle between, humanity and apes. It feels strange. It feels like it shouldn't be as nuanced and as good as it is, but that just comes down to the directing and having that, self-awareness whenever it comes to these films. I mean, whenever I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes and I watched it in theaters, I was blown away by the motion capture. This is one of those films to where it is, it's an achievement for what it did. In a little bit, I'll talk about sort of the ending, because there are two different endings. Matt Reeves switched it up last minute, and he pretty much had to Skype, the main actors to change this to change the directing, and he did motion capture pretty much like how we would be doing it over Zoom. It's an amazing, advancement in technology in motion capture, and the way that, they do it, it feels organic whenever you watch it. This whole movie, I was never taken away from the CGI. It still holds up to this day, and it somehow gets even better in War for the Planet of the Apes. It's, this trilogy, you really see Matt Reeves come into his own, and it's amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Justin?
100% agreed. This is one of those trilogies where there really isn't a weakest link. Like, eventually you're going to rank all three, I'm assuming, but even when you put your third movie at the third spot, that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. This is a trilogy where they somewhat get better each time. Like, they don't miss a beat at all. And especially Dawn. To me, Dawn is the best out of the three, but it is also like a super tight film. There's really no fat on any of these movies per se. Andy Serkis kills it. He's phenomenal in almost everything he does, except Mowgli. Wasn't the biggest fan of that film. Some people even forget he directed that film, or even Venom 2. Don't care for those, but those are his directorial efforts. Every time he acts in his motion capture, he knows exactly what he wants. He knows what he wants to do. He brings it. And the opening shot of Dawn, for instance, is incredible. And the last shot of Dawn is even better than the opening, I would say. When you zoom in on just the eyes of Serkis, I mean, yes, it looks like Serkis, but there's just the emotion and the way technology evolved from 2011 to 2014 to war in 2017, like Jacob said, it's mind-boggling. Like, you didn't think they could get better than Dawn, then they did. So there's never going to be a fourth film. But if there was, I would just like to see in terms of how it goes. Because obviously things happened at the end of part 3. So there's other characters you can go on to. I just would like to see how motion capture evolves in all this. But yeah, I think Dawn is perfect from beginning to end. I have almost no issues with it. And it's directed phenomenally as well. There's 2 one takes in the film, I think. 2. There's the tank scene. And then there's the one where Jason Clarke is grabbing some supplies and he's trying to avoid the apes. And they're both directed so well and give you a grasp of what each character is feeling. Koba with the insanity that he's bringing to that environment, and you get to see it from Koba's point of view, and then Jason Clarke to see, can I not be spotted by these apes, and can I get my stuff and get out of Dodge? So I think Matt Reeves killed it.
Yeah. I specifically, I've always said, the thing about that movie is it instantly just takes you into the world of Caesar. You're instantly know that this is about Caesar. And that opening shot to me, I know you like the closing shot better. I love the opening shot more than anything. And it's probably my favorite opening shot of any blockbuster to come out in the last however many years, because I just absolutely love how you just open a film like that. Like, because you have the opening, telling you about the simian flu, and then it kind of cuts to black. It shows you the title card, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and you get a little bit of black for like 2 seconds. And then instantly you just hear thunder and then lightning and Caesar's face zoomed into his eyes. And you just zoom out and you're thrown into this world of the apes. And it just you don't ever want to leave. It to me is probably one of the best ways I've ever seen a movie open in my entire life, especially for a blockbuster. There are independent films that have done even better, but for blockbusters, especially the last 20 years, it really does not get better than that. It really doesn't. You were instantly told this is about apes, this is about Caesar, and this is what this movie is. It is not your normal blockbuster. Here you go. Let's enjoy this ride. And it's amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal. That opening shot just kills me every time. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, this is
like you said, we zoom out of Caesar's eyes in the very beginning, and then at the end we zoom back into his eyes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could make some connection in that direction there. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is not your typical blockbuster. It's sort of, I love it whenever with these high budget films, you let that art house shine through a little bit, where, you give care to your lens and where you put it and how you edit it. And that's what, puts this film above so many others, is it's not afraid to be creative and it's not afraid to take risks. It's just, it breaks those conventions a little bit. And it fully it lets you be immersed in a world that is so unfamiliar to our own. It's something that, feels absurd that an ape could take the place of a human, but, with this gentle care through direction to where you can bring out that humanity in another species, it helps people connect. But yeah, no, I love how, Justin, you brought up, whenever you're looking into Caesar's eyes, like, you see Andy Serkis. Like that gives it an uncanny valley. I mean, it looks amazing, but it's like there's like some moments from like, that's Andy Serkis right there. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, especially for, way back when. And this came out 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
For them to be.
And this movie holds a special place in my heart for an odd reason that I don't think anybody else can relate to. But for me, Dawn was the first movie I ever saw in D-Box. So this movie literally moved to the seat. And what a great movie to have as it too. I want to talk about the sound mixing and the sound editing for just a second. Every gunshot in this movie sounds violent. Every hit in this movie sounds violent. It's such a vibrant movie, and there's just grit to it. I hate when people say it's dark and gritty, but this is like literally a dark and gritty movie that just happens to have apes in it. So I know Matt Reeves is being compared to a certain extent to other directors. I do think this is his quote unquote Dark Knight. I don't think he's going to get better than this. Maybe he will in a couple days, but I think as of right now, this is still his crowning achievement. Nothing against War, but to me, this one is his crowning achievement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think that Matt Reeves has missed in all the films that are accessible that he's done. I know he did one back in the 90s that, it's kind of hard to find. But, you have Cloverfield, you have Let Me In, Dawn, and War, and now The Batman. And with Cloverfield, it was one of the first of its kind, found footage. And then with Let Me In, he does a new take on horror. That was fantastic, very emotional ride. And then he comes in 5 years later with Dawn and Planet of the Apes, and he just throws himself into that conversation of blockbuster directors. But it wasn't in the sense of like, whenever 2012 Avengers came out, Joss Whedon was hailed as like this great director. But when you look back at that film now, it's like, okay, this just has that normal, it looks like a TV movie sometimes. The visual effects are great, but the way it was shot is just way too bright. There's like no shadows, there's nothing going on in that film. And obviously Joss Whedon has fallen off due to Justice League errors. And with Age of Ultron as well, he fell off a little bit. But Matt Reeves kind of just showed up on the stage out of nowhere, and his best friend J.J. Abrams has been making the Star Trek movies and now Star Wars, and he shows up out of nowhere, kind of forgotten about, and it's like, holy shit, this guy's an amazing director. Like, he hasn't missed. And I think that I personally wouldn't say that I think that he can get better. I think that this is a magnificent achievement upon his part. And I do think that he did get better with War for the Planet of the Apes. And I'm not going to say anything about the Batman because we haven't seen it, but I would love to see him do something that's not an IP. I would like to see him do something original at some point to try and see if he can get better. But this isn't his Get Out, in my opinion. Get Out is like Jordan Peele. I don't think you can ever get better, and that might hurt your career. I don't think this is his Get Out. I think that this is a great stepping stone and a good little entrance into who he is and what he is. And I think that he's only getting better, in my opinion. But what's your thoughts, Jacob?
I mean, for me, I definitely prefer Dawn more than War. I would say the only thing that takes the cake for me with War, especially, is the cinematography. But if we're gonna talk Batman, I mean, even just looking at the trailers, you can see Matt Reeves' development through action. I'm already seeing.
No. I'm saying that we can't really talk about it right now in the sense because it's just trailers. We haven't seen
it is,
yet.
but I'm saying, from those hints and those teases, I can see, the action that Matt Reeves creates through cinematography. It's peaking. He's never been afraid to just let the camera sit and let the action take place in the frame rather than through the edit. Yeah. And I think that's something that we're going to see exactly through the Batman. That's, the one thing that blew me away is the action. It has impact. I mean, granted, there's a lot of CGI for the, film, but you could also say that about a Marvel movie or, a modern DC film. And they don't have that impact that Matt Reeves does. And it's all about the camera. I think that he has a great intuition as a director, along with being able to successfully balance it with a nuanced story that it's completely immersive. That's why, I'm so excited for the Batman, and whenever we get the chance to see it tomorrow is, he has the ability to do both. Not a lot of directors are able to do that. And it takes a special kind of prowess, and to see that through the Batman, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Dawn, though, it's a special breed.
Yeah, I think also another special trait about him in these two movies is this is a blockbuster, as we know, and the thing that we've seen over blockbusters, and especially things like this, that's not Chris Nolan or Spielberg or anything like that. It's these Marvel movies that's what we know, or the DCEU. And I think that those films are afraid to hold for emotion. I think that they're afraid that your movie might go too long if you linger on this person's face, if you linger on this scene and this moment. And Matt Reeves is like, no, I'm not afraid to do this. I'm not afraid. I will hold on this person's face. I will hold on this scene. I will hold on this set. I will hold on everything to literally let people feel it. And you don't get that enough in blockbusters nowadays. And these two films that he just knocks out of the park, you really feel it. It's hard to connect with an ape, but you legitimately connect with an ape, and you feel it, and you see in the emotion of these characters' eyes. And I think that's one of the things that he went to scope on War instead of continuing flat, in my opinion, is just because it gives him more of an opportunity to do more close-ups. That's what you get. The visual effects are much easier to do in scope, and so you do those close-ups, and you can see those apes' eyes. You can see it, the power in Maurice. You can see the power in Rocket and Caesar, and it's just absolutely amazing. He's not afraid to go to that point to make the audience feel something for these movies, and I think that only helps him. Yeah.
One last note on just letting the camera linger is there's one shot in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes whenever Jason Clarke is talking to his then girlfriend in the film. Trying to look up the actress's name real quick. Carrie Russell. Where they're in his house, and they're discussing about how Jason Clarke needs to go meet with Caesar again because there's a chance for them to be able to turn on the dam, and he doesn't cut for a solid minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's just one two shot with the camera up above. You don't see that in normal blockbusters. Like I said, it's like their emotion, if there is any, it comes through the edit. It's always, it has to be fast paced. It has to move along. It's how the audience is their attention is constantly grabbed. But I think that this is a great statement for, blockbuster directors, is that you don't need your film to be fast paced and constantly moving along for it to keep interest. It all comes down to your story and the intrigue that you create. And you lose that with, Marvel films and DC films from time to time, is because, they are focused on the franchise rather than the story themselves that they're telling. Yeah. I mean, it's common knowledge that Marvel films, they have, that algorithm, they have that formula, and they can be repetitive at times. They're still enjoyable films, but whenever you look at the story, they can be hollow. And this just goes to show that in the long run, whenever you're creating these films, it's more memorable whenever you find that emotion and you're not afraid to do it as a director.
Yeah.
And I think these movies follow a theme through and through. I think Rise is your action movie. Dawn is your more human drama. And then War is a straight up tragedy to a certain extent.
It's a psychological thriller, same way as, Apocalypse Now.
Yes. And to me, it reinvents itself every single time. You can't watch one of these movies and go, damn, they really just repeated. This isn't The Hangover Part 2, where you're just going to repeat Rise. This is reinventing itself every single time and doing it better than the last. So, to be honest with you, I mean, we have the same director for Dawn and War. I would have been curious. I don't want it, but I would have at least been curious to see what a different director could do with War if, Mark Baumbach and Matt Reeves didn't direct it. I have no issues with War as it stands right now, but maybe to bring in a third director, I would just want to see it reinvented in another way. Not to get into War right now, unless you guys want to.
No, we're on Dawn.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But
sorry.
My only issue with the Apes franchise as a whole is that it can feel somewhat smallish. Maybe this is me just in my universe world, but even you bring up MCU and DCU, I do want them to expand out a little bit bigger every single time. And they kept getting smaller and smaller to a certain extent. Rise starts off as this big San Francisco story. Then Dawn starts off at a camp. Then War goes to another camp. And then the ending of War brings it into another world where we could go bigger. I want to see them evolve bigger than what they are right now.
There is a bigger world. It's the actual Planet of the Apes film, which they set up.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the title. This is a Planet of Apes. I have not seen a planet full of apes. I've seen a city full of apes. I've seen a county.
Then watch 1968 Planet of the Apes.
He wants the less personal. That's what these are. Is that it's not.
Yeah, these are very personal stories, which I'm not saying it's a negative.
But that's what is my thing about the first one is, you said all three of these movies are equal. You can't put one above the other. I think you can. I think the first one is the weakest of the three. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal opinion. It's the weaker of the three. And the reason why I say that is that it is that quintessential blockbuster. It is that thing that is just there's no wonder, there's no stakes, there's no challenge to the main character. There is just this normal rising action, falling action, climax, and end of movie. It is just that normal thing that doesn't challenge the audience, in my opinion. It is just an entertaining flick. And so that's my main issue with the film. It does open up into a world that could be Planet of the Apes. And that's where I'm like, I come into Dawn and Matt Reeves comes in with this personal, grounded story that is relatable, and I think that I watched that movie and I see The Godfather. It is that Godfather story of Caesar has to take control, even though he's already in control of the tribe, but he has to learn to take control and find his footing, making this tribe work. He's still in the early stages. He's still building it. He's still working with it. And he has to learn to make those hard decisions. He has to learn to grow. And you see that character growth. And in the end, he ends up failing for the actions and the decisions that he's made. and he ends up failing. You know, whenever he beats the shit out of Koba, he kind of loses everyone. And that's a moment that you don't really feel or see in the first one. It does just have that normal arc. And so when he beats the shit out of Koba, that's the turning point. That is him going down and beneath, you know, what he stood for. That is his moment of, you know, in The Godfather, whenever what's it called? Michael Corleone has to kill the two people. He has to be sent away. And it's kind of like the same thing in this one. It's, you know, Caesar is officially like, people don't, they fear him rather than they look up to him and respect him and want to follow his lead. He's now working out of fear that he is this man. And so it works in such a way that I don't want to see a bigger world. I think that this grounded story of focusing on Caesar and in his tribe of apes and what he's built is very important for this specific story. Now, it can be expanded later on for other trilogies, but that's what I love most about what Matt Reeves came in and did. He made this extremely personal to himself. He made this extremely personal for someone that might be watching this, that has to take care of a family, you know, that has to truly take care of their family and make the best decision for their family. You know, you always talk about Fast and Furious, it's all about family. I mean, those are friends. Those are friends that are your family, but this is legitimately him trying to make the best decisions for his family and his tribe. And he fails, you know, he doesn't make the right choices. And it challenges him. And in the end, like the Dark Knight, a la the Dark Knight, in the end, he comes out on top. But in the end, he fails. He loses everything that he fought for, that he built. And it's just a challenging story for the character. And, you know, that closing shot with Jason Clarke walking away and Jason Clarke choosing to fight Gary Oldman is a pivotal moment, because it's that moment. We are Jason Clarke in that moment. We do not want the humans to succeed, even though Koba is killing humans. We don't want them to succeed. We want Caesar to succeed. You know, you have all these different character battles throughout the film. You want Caesar to succeed. And Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it is just that normal story arc of you have your bad guy and you have your good guy, and here you go. You want to see Caesar succeed. He gets treated terribly and he comes out on top, and bam, he ends up winning. And James Franco really doesn't have that crazy of a story arc in that film. So that's all I'm saying. Like, I hear what you're saying, but for a series like this, and, you know, like Dark Knight trilogy, Chris Nolan didn't want to open that trilogy up. He kept it very grounded and very similar to this specific story that he's trying to tell. And I love trilogies like that. The open world ideas that we've been seeing in blockbusters and franchises is getting tiresome now. We want to get back to these stories, these human stories, these stories that you can relate to.
I disagree with that, because you again, I'm coming at this with love. I got nothing but love for Matt Reeves. I love what he's done. I'm not hating on the man, but he did somewhat limit himself in that. When you say that we've gotten tiresome of open world movies, I disagree, because that gives you an open door to say, hey, if you want, here's a story, there's a story, take it or leave it. At the end of this trilogy, we're kind of left in a place where I don't really know where it goes from here, because we followed Caesar and they didn't really build up another character to like stand strong. So again, it would never happen. But if there was a fourth, because this one made $5 billion, if Fox came to him and said, hey, make a fourth, I have no idea where he would go. He would have to reinvent the wheel again.
But that's exactly that. You reboot the series with another story to tell. Matt Reeves ended the Caesar story. That's what I'm saying. It's like he completes the trilogy, and it's not about other movies. You know, you can watch War for the Planet of the Apes and have no idea. You do not have to have seen Dawn or Rise. They explain it. It's told to you. You don't have to have seen it. And that's what I respect the most. You don't have to have seen it to get this one. And to build, he doesn't want, you know, Matt Reeves is done with the Planet of the Apes.
I don't think you would care if you walked into war blind. I don't think you would care as much for Caesar. I think you would still care, but I don't think you would bring in heart.
I disagree, because I think I disagree because I mean his wife and child get killed. That's an emotional arc right then and there, and you don't have to have followed his story from the first two to feel that emotion, especially when you follow him throughout the entire movie. But again, that's just difference in opinions.
You gotta bring in your baggage, though. If you bring in your baggage, all is well in the world.
But I'm saying that's what makes his films stand out to me, is that you don't need it. I really feel like you do not need to have seen the other two movies. That's what stands out, is that they stand alone perfectly. And if you disagree with that would say that the movie is bad because it doesn't do a good job. It does. But I'm saying if you disagree with the fact that the movie could stand alone and it doesn't need any other baggage, that would say that the movie is bad, because that means that you weren't emotionally connected to this story, this one story of this film. That's
I'm emotionally connected because I'm bringing in my baggage from 1 and 2 into 3. I think you can walk into 3 without knowing who Caesar is. I just don't think it works as well as it could if you know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, with Dawn, I think Dawn is my favorite, but I think that for me personally, I think War is better. And it's simply because I can feel a little bit of the studio in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I can feel it just a tiny bit. With War for the Planet of the Apes, you can't tell me it's like that final, you can't tell me you can make a blockbuster movie today and say, oh, Woody Harrelson does not have to fight in the bout. They do not have to have a fist fight in the end. Woody Harrelson dies of a disease in the end. And it's like, that's a choice that Matt Reeves, I feel like, was able to make on his own. In a normal quintessential blockbuster, you have to have that antagonist versus protagonist fight. But there's nothing about that in the third movie. And I that's why I'm like, I really feel the studio in the second one, because everyone has to cross paths. Everyone has to fight each other in the second one. That doesn't deter the movie or make it worse or anything. I just feel like the studio just steps in and is like, you got to do this. Let's see how you do with this movie. And in the third one, if you knock it out of the park with the second one, we'll let you do whatever you want in the third one. And that's kind of what I feel. And it's like, that's what, like, you don't see that at all in blockbusters, to have the main antagonist and the main protagonist not have a fist fight, not have a shootout or anything. It was a psychological warfare. They talked throughout. They never fought each other. They never threw fists. They never threw hands. They never shot guns at each other. It was all about different philosophies. It was all about exactly Apocalypse Now. So that's where I'm like, I do think War is better, just for that sense of like, this is like Matt Reeves doing what he wants, and he still knocked it out. He didn't have any, like, obviously he had help, but it was like, this is his vision. And with the studio in the second one, it's still, if I feel it there. Not that makes it worse or anything, because that's my favorite, but I feel it. But do you think,
supposed to relate? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask Jacob a question. Do you think, and kind of to wrap up that argument me and Justin had, do you think that all three of these movies stand alone, or do you think that you have to have seen, kind of like obviously Marvel, you have to have seen the Avengers to understand where Tom Holland is coming from in Far From Home?
But yeah, you can absolutely watch these movies individually and have an understanding of what's going on.
Okay.
I say that the closest that you can get in Dawn is sort of the whole, simian flu. But even then, that was more, it got teased in, like, I think it was a post-credit scene at the airport whenever some ape blood got on that old dude's hand.
Yeah.
And then, it's at least in the beginning of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, they have that recap, sort of, that standard blockbuster dialogue where they're showing everything that's going on. That's honestly my least favorite part of the film. I just don't like it whenever films have to narrate to tell us what's going on. It's like, just show us. And that's a studio thing. So that's definitely not a Matt Reeves thing. But even then, going back to sort of that studio interference, like, there's a reason why, the ending that we got what we did, Matt Reeves had to fight for it. According to him, the original film was supposed to take place, I think it was on the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's supposed to be, pretty much a callback to the first film. But Matt Reeves said, that's not my vision. I need to be able to properly set up for War for the Planet of the Apes, and that's where you get this. They had to do the motion capture over Skype. That he had to direct remotely because they were already moving on to different projects, and he ended up getting that change, and it worked for the better. But no, I absolutely agree. I think War for the Planet of the Apes is something that it's subversive for the blockbuster genre. It's usually you do have to have, these big climactic fights. And while there was action as the apes escape, I think that it was it was beautiful to see, Woody Harrelson. He contracts the variant of the virus that removes his ability for speech, because I think that it shows humanity's de-evolution, in real life and in the film, with just losing our own humanity. I mean, we constantly create war, we're constantly bloodlusted, and there's just sort of this anger and there's this pressure that's boiling over, and it stands true today. And that shows how good his film is with Ukraine, everything that's going on. I'm not going to get too much into it for political reasons, but still, it's whenever you look at what's going on, I think that's the perfect fit for Woody Harrelson to lose his speech, because it shows how much we've lost our own humanity. And that's why, we've lost the War for the Planet of the Apes. It's because it was never coming from a place of love. And that was Caesar's message at the end of the film, is that as angry as he is for the loss of his child and his wife, he can't lead and create a new generation out of hate, anger, and vengeance. It has to be one built out of love and success for future generations, is what his original philosophy was. And it shows that he will become just like Woody Harrelson if he does not follow down that same path.
Like Koba, just like Koba.
Exactly. I love how they use Koba. I mean, I love psychological surrealism, especially through hallucinations. I think that whenever we get these dream sequences with Koba, it's absolutely perfect. It brings back sort of, the messages from the prior films in a way that stands, true to his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so are we supposed to relate to Koba in any way, do you think? Or do you think Koba is a through and through bad guy, quote unquote?
You definitely can relate to him. And that's where I think the second one has so much strength, is that there is relatability for everyone in the story. Koba, in all sense and purposes, was a slave. And when he was freed, he has nothing but hate for the white man. No, I'm kidding.
You bring that up. I was going to say,
he has nothing but hate for humans.
Koba reminds me of Michael B. Jordan from Black Panther, in terms of, here's a dude who's like, hey, these are my people. Why are you choosing these other people? Fuck these people. They don't mean anything to me. Yeah. So therefore, if you don't side with me and our people, you can go kick rocks.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he told Caesar at the end is, apes together, stop messing with, like, the humans brought a shotgun after we told them give us all our weapons and things of that nature. Like, the humans kept giving them excuses to not trust them, but yet Caesar saw the good in it, and Caesar said, okay, but one more chance, one more chance, and then we'll do it.
I think he's relatable, and I think the only thing that hurts Koba is the fact that the relatability to Koba is that we know Caesar is right, and that's the human perspective of this film. That's where that kind of power dynamic between Caesar and Koba kind of hurts itself, because we've already seen the human perspective of Jason Clarke and all them. We know that they're not bad people. So it kind of like hurts Koba's relatability, because we know he's right. We know not right. We know he's wrong. We know Caesar's right. And, to kind of like see Koba go crazy creates a lot of conflict, but it kind of throws out the relatability aspect, because it's like, no, like we've seen both sides. And that's where I think that's what I mean by, like, sometimes the script hurts itself in that sense, because you want to create emotion and relatability for Koba, but there is none,
Well, something that I wish that the film touched on a little bit more is, I would say that the antithesis to Koba is Gary Oldman's character, is because both characters are fully surrounded by the survival of their own species. They're not, interested in having that connection between both. Just with Gary Oldman, because there are so many, characters to involve and dissect with. He didn't get that screen time that I think was necessary to show, his full motivations. With Koba, it's,
yeah, he really got cut out the movie a lot.
He did. I think that, Koba's greater connection and the disconnect that comes from it is the fact that he is an ape. That's just, something that has to be at the forefront of all of our minds for watching this, is that whenever the general audience sees these apes, they don't see humans. That's, a subconscious disconnect. With Gary Oldman, people would relate more to, his motivations, because we're people. We want to see the human race survive. That's our most, that's our innermost survival mechanism, is survival of our species. And whenever there are two species that are trying to coexist and the conflicts that arise from it, it can be harder to relate to Koba. And so having that antithesis through Gary Oldman, I think, would have created a better nuance towards Koba.
Yeah.
But even speaking true to, like just his motivations and his relationship with Caesar, something that I absolutely loved was, the visual for just, forgiveness is them brushing hands, and the way that sort of gets twisted as Koba's relationship with Caesar becomes fractured, because they had that genuine love for each other at the beginning. There's that trust and that affection, and it's just, one ape can peacefully coexist with humans and wants to, and the other just sees hatred and darkness.
Yeah. Justin, you brought up the question. What's your thoughts?
Yes, I do think you are supposed to relate with Koba. I think if you don't relate with them, you're missing the point of that character as a whole. I think that character is a lot more complex than people give it credit for, or do give it credit for that instance. I think he's really three-dimensional. He may come off as your stereotypical villain in terms of he's really just out for blood and wants to take the throne, wants to become the leader that he doesn't think Caesar is. He thinks Caesar's more of a pushover. Like I said, the humans brought shotguns when you told them no guns. Stop giving these people chances. He sees Caesar as somebody he could push over. And then Caesar has to find it in himself to come out and say, actually, buddy, you were wrong the whole time. I really am the leader. Here's A to Z of why I am. So for me, I think they're both really well-written characters. I mean, Koba only gets 1.5 of a movie to show it, but he really makes an imprint on this franchise, and hence why you get to see him in part 3 for the 20-30 seconds that we do, is because his impact lays large over this whole franchise going on from Dawn.
Alrighty. So we've talked a little bit about Dawn. Let's jump into a little bit about War for the Planet of the Apes. We've talked about this movie quite a bit already. You can't, because it's you have to, because it's a trilogy. But again, I still stand by the fact that it's standalone, but it does help to have seen the other movies. And this movie especially helps a little bit for that Koba thing that we were talking about, and for Caesar's journey. It helps a little bit to know where he came from, and to feel that. You feel the emotion, you feel the ride. And War for the Planet of the Apes kind of just, I've said, like, Dawn is, it almost feels like a coming of age film. It feels like someone growing into the role that they're meant to be. And, the emotional ride you go on is not as emotional as War. War for the Planet of the Apes goes strictly for sadness, emotion. This man who is destroyed through and through. He's lost his best friend, he's lost his wife, his kid, he's lost his family, he's lost his whole tribe, he's lost everything, and he's hell-bent to get revenge. It's a revenge story that turns into a love story. That it's not sad because of, spoilers, the death at the end, the death of Caesar. It's not sad for that reason. It's sad for the journey that he had to go through, and the let go and the forgiveness that he has to get to. And that's where I feel like this movie has the better ride for me, because it just throws you into this world of just chaos, and you have to follow the singular journey that you just feel so much for this ape. You fucking hate humans at this point. You just absolutely despise them. They are this disgust, it's almost Guillermo del Toro-esque. Guillermo del Toro hates humans in his films. He hates them. He thinks they're terrible. And this film goes that route a little bit. It's the first film that is fully told from the ape perspective. There is no human perspective, really. It's only ape perspective. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it really is. I love stories to where they break down a character's motivations. Just for it's able to create a more raw emotion. Through what they're feeling and the journey that they've gone through, because it tells better of where they are going. I think that it sets the stage perfectly for the Planet of the Apes. Because we've seen all the pain that this species has had to go through just to find their own salvation. It has been a war from the birth of their existence as a more realized species. As they've become closer to humans, we've seen that separation between humanity and humans. I think that creating this Marlon Brando, Colonel Kurtz-esque character through Woody Harrelson. Great casting, by the way, man. Woody Harrelson's like, you would not expect him to be that Marlon Brando, but he knocked it out of the park. I love it. It's just, it's personal. I love stories that are personal, but can also, have that widespread longevity, through a franchise. And that's exactly what this film is. It is that period mark.
Yeah.
Justin. My relationship with this movie was after watching Rise and Dawn, of course, and then going into this movie, it feels different, but also not so much to where it feels like a departure. And watching it again for this podcast, I clocked it the minute Caesar goes to the camp and he sees the other two dead apes. It's only about an hour and 5 to 10 minutes into the movie, and the movie's only 2:20. So you only spend an hour at this camp, but it feels like an eternity. And I feel like that's Matt Reeves' intention. Is there's a lot of moments in that camp where you feel like you're also trapped too. Because when I saw this movie for the first time, it felt like it went on for 4 hours. Not in a negative way. It's just that's how it felt. So in that sense, I guess major props to Matt Reeves for making me feel like Caesar. I felt depressed after this movie. I felt sad, even with that happy quote unquote ending of Caesar's finally done what he wanted. He's moved on. All is well. I think this movie is really, really great in terms of the story that it wants to tell. Obviously, excluding the whole, there could be an outside world to this, as the movie that Matt Reeves wanted to make. It's fantastic. Like you said, Woody's great. Andy's obviously great. He was always going to be. But the other characters that we get introduced to, the major standout is Steve Zahn as Bad Ape. He's the shining moment of this movie. He's the only person who brings levity to it in this very, very dark movie, where I would say a good 90% of it is nothing but sadness, depression, loss of life. When you see Steve Zahn, he gives you a moment to breathe in this 2-hour and 20-minute movie. He's your only sense to breathe. But even at that sense, you still feel on edge. So that's what this movie does to me. It puts me on edge at all times. The moment where Caesar says to Woody, because he doesn't know who he is at that moment. He's just like, you're just another ape, I guess. Like, and Caesar has to explain to him, no, you killed my wife and son. There was a moment there where I thought Woody was going to go real dark and say, that's it? Like, that's all I killed? I thought he was going to go extra, extra dark. It turns out he's really just a guy who wants democracy in a world full of apes and things like that, I guess, to a certain extent. He sees them as lesser people, of course. I mean, he puts them to literal slave work. So he's just such a well-rounded character in that sense. And by the time he does reach his final demise, like you said, there is no big climactic action sequence. It is a moment that is done almost in silence. Also, the last hour or 30 minutes of this movie, 40 minutes, whatever it is, there's no dialogue. It's completely the score by Michael Giacchino. Yes, I think so. It's that in sign language and subtitles. There is no dialogue. Woody never speaks after that moment where it's the two of them up in his bunker.
Yeah,
after that
he has
moment,
this monologue. Yeah,
after that moment, there's no dialogue in this whole film. So I think this film works tremendously.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I think that sort of like an unspoken theme throughout the entire trilogy that we haven't really touched on is communication. It's something that we take for granted, is, you know, the gift of language, and to have that taken away for humanity in the third film, it's something that is, you know, it's remarkable to me. It's just it adds that layer of nuance, because the entire time throughout this trilogy, it's the question of what makes us human. If there's a species who has the ability to do what we can, what separates us from them, or are we, you know, the exact same? And there's that question that creates sort of this disjointed conflict, as, you know, people and apes agree and disagree on what can bring us together and create that cohesion. And Woody Harrelson's character is that final, you know, nail in the coffin for humanity. Not only does he act in, you know, this violent, just, you know, guerrilla warfare with, you know, it's full of just, you know, hatred and anger coming from the place of, you know, fear mongering his, you know, his beliefs. And, you know, the stance that he's above apes and ape kind is finally taken away with the carpet pulled out underneath his feet, with him losing his speech. It's something that's very interesting on you know, each rewatch, is looking at communication and that barrier.
And the arc that Caesar goes on in this film, you know, after the colonel kills his wife and child, the first human that he sees, he doesn't even hesitate to kill him. And then towards the end of the film, he has point blank shot to kill, and the colonel wants him to kill him. And it's just a great moment, again, that Matt Reeves just holds for emotion, that, you know, for like 20 seconds, you're just staring into Caesar's eyes, this visual effects eyes that's told so well with Andy Serkis and everything going on, that you just hold. And that just speaks to the prowess of his directing and the team that he has to make this film. Like, you held on to this visual effects ape eyes, and you could see the emotion and the battle within him through his eyes as he could kill the man that killed his wife and child, and the heartbreak that he goes to put the gun down. You know, you it's one of those moments that you build to, that's like, you know, a normal blockbuster, you know what he's going to do, but at this moment in time, you know, how many times you watch it, you know what's going to happen, but you still like feel like he might do it. You know, you feel like he should do it, and you feel like he shouldn't do it. And it really depends on the human that's watching it. It depends on the person that's watching it, because it's like, at this moment in time, it's about making that right decision. And I just think that's such an amazing arc to go on. It's that forgiveness that he finds, not to say he forgave this man, but that ability to let it go, to move on and realize the bigger picture, and realize that the people that are dead wouldn't want this. It doesn't bring them back. It doesn't help anything. It only causes more pain and suffering for you. So it was such a great moment that, again, like, it's so weird. And I think that's the topic of the conversation, you know, for me about this trilogy, is that it is not your normal blockbuster trilogy. Those moments are just so catastrophic and just so severe in terms of like blockbuster turns that you just don't get nowadays. It's you don't get those moments, you know. Even in Spider-Man No Way Home, you know, I know that Peter Parker was going to kill Green Goblin, but it's another Spider-Man that has to help him. And I know it's a different story, but it's like, that's a moment that is the same exact type of story arc that Peter has to go through. And you don't see that battle within. It's always an extra character that has to help him. And it's not towards the end of the film that you can see Peter's battle, you know, whenever he has to try to talk to his old friends, whenever they don't know him. It's this battle for an ape and you see for 30 seconds just looking into his eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
what is he gonna do?
You look at, sort of these two different films that have similar arcs, and you wonder why one carries more emotional resonance than the others.
For us,
yeah, we have to say for us, especially with Spider-Man No Way Home. That's got some love to it. But no, I mean, at least for us, and I think that it's just because, if we have to talk about Marvel movies, whenever you look at sort of those emotional connections and beats, Marvel films, they have, those beats are more moments throughout the film. While with, you look at War for the Planet of the Apes, that entire film is the moment. It's all about that one, human connection, while, Spider-Man No Way Home is trying to juggle so many things at once and trying to create something. I think it's really cool with what No Way Home tried to, create. But whenever you look at sort of that human emotion and connection through, Spider-Man and larger Marvel films, it's just that emotion isn't at the forefront consistently, as opposed to, some other films.
Yeah.
I mean, I love moments in movies, and I love when the movie is the moment, like you said. I view Marvel movies as candy. I view DC movies as candy. I think they're all fun. I don't really hate any Marvel movie, and I don't really hate any DC movie. But when you look at so when you look at a movie like Planet of the Apes, where the movie is in service to the story instead of the other way around, or I think I said that right. Yeah, whatever way it is, like one works for the other in tandem and not in the way that most movies are. So I think that's why Planet of the Apes will stand the test of time. You will probably look at these movies in 20 years and go, damn, still holds up 30, 40 odd years later. You may look at a movie like Civil War or No Way Home and go, well, it was fun, but it was more of a in the moment type movie, where these movies will stand the test of time.
And that's where the grounded aspect comes into play. It's, filming on location, it's filming with less green screen, blue screen, and all that. It's, I mean, obviously apes are CGI, but still that's where most of their visual effects lie. They put the motion captures on real sets in an actual forest. And so that's where it helps. It stands the test of time, because 2014, those visual effects still stand. It still works. And then it gets better in 2017. Those visual effects are 10 times better than anything we saw last year.
I think that people discredit how much of an effect that filming on location can have, because you can always tell whenever something's natural and diegetic as compared to whenever it's fully artificial. And I think that Matt Reeves had great intuition whenever he has to realize that, his film about apes is going to be largely motion capture and, special effects, and to just at least give it that, sense of, grounded realism by filming on location. It adds to the story that he's trying to tell. I think that it's something that is uniquely smart. And I would say that, Marvel films, looking at them, they're campy, and they have the green screen, but they're trying to tell different stories, which is, completely why, and it's completely fine, because they are, they're great at what they do. It's just, it really does come down to personal preference of what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And I want to bring this up too, if you don't mind. I just would like to point out, like you said, the visual effects in these movies are phenomenal. That's commonplace, but they never won an Academy Award. And if you'll indulge me for a moment, I just want to tell you who the winners were each year one of these movies came out. So for Rise, Hugo won Best Visual Effects over Rise.
I see that.
His other nominees were Deathly Hallows Part 2, Real Steel, and Dark of the Moon from Transformers.
Hugo
out of those,
Hugo deserves to win.
So out of those, you're cool with
I think that I think that Dark of the Moon is kind of, Michael Bay's Transformers. It's up there with visual effects. Just because both franchises have been transformative for what they've done with CGI.
Only the first three. His last two visual effects Transformers are horrible.
And we don't talk about those. Those don't exist.
And then for Dawn, it lost out to Interstellar.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
And Dawn's other nominees were Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Days of Future Past.
You see, Brooke, I mean, we'll talk about it more with Batman. I just know we're on Matt Reeves, so I'm using that as like my little excuse.
Yeah, we're jumping into that real soon.
Yeah, I mean, like for Interstellar visual effects, they use the LED screens for background, which is something that, I think Mandalorian got more notoriety for, just because, they have more, it's Star Wars. And then, Batman's finally coming around. I think that's going to be a great,
He didn't use LED screens in Interstellar. He just used backgrounds. There were no LED screens. Interstellar, actually, fun fact, that has the least visual effects in any Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? A movie about space has the least visual effects. You're telling me that
I remember talking to you about it.
In Insomnia, there's more visual effects than Interstellar.
I don't know about that, but
maybe studio.
Okay. I mean, obviously with his studio films, it has the least amount of visual effects.
I mean, you look at like Memento and Insomnia, which is more independent.
Those probably have zero visual effects, if any.
Okay.
LED's backlighting didn't become a thing until Mandalorian. That was a new technology that Greg Fraser and Jon Favreau created that they're using on the Batman.
That was a miscommunication for me, but either way, it was sort of this. Then you can call this the archetype for what the LED screens became.
I know what you're
diegetic background, as opposed to green screen. But either way, my larger point is I'm glad that that's what we're moving towards, as opposed to strictly green screens, because I prefer actually being on location as opposed to LED screen or green screen. But I think that finding something that's more natural, especially whenever you look at it from an acting standpoint of whenever the actors can see their set and their surroundings rather than blocks of green, it helps create a more naturalistic feel for the actors, and you can see that through the performance.
I mean, Mandalorian is just breathtaking, so I do like that is the way that we're going, but I don't think that's the way Marvel is going, but I think that's the way that any other studio is going. And especially studios that bring in great directors. They don't just pick directors off the street that made a good independent film. That's what Marvel is known for. They kind of control what goes on, which is kind of interesting that Sam Raimi jumps in, but that's besides the point. I think that's what helps Planet of the Apes, is that the visual effects are not what carry the story. The visual effects are what obviously enhances the story, which is what it's supposed to be. And so it will stand the test of time, because you really feel like you're not watching visual effects at all. You can point them out, obviously, but it's not in the way. It's not there to fucking awe you and throw you out. It's not Star Wars, the prequel series. It's not Marvel movies. It's a grounded film that's filmed on location and filmed in a way that is relatable for people to feel a connection to the story.
And then super last one for War for the Planet of the Apes. Super last one. It was Last Jedi, Kong Skull Island, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and then the winner, Blade Runner 2049. But again,
Planet of the Apes had no chance to win each year. They had no chance.
But if they weren't in second place, then that's a crime.
Yeah, they had to have been. I think Marvel movies just get nominated because no one gives a shit about visual effects. They're just like, all right, what was the biggest movie of the year? And then they just throw the movies out there.
Yeah, they just got the money for it.
And so, because I only say that, and this is a sidebar, 2013, Man of Steel didn't get nominated for visual effects. Man of Steel was one of the better movies with visual effects that year. You fucking made Superman fly and it looked real.
Yeah.
What, that doesn't deserve a nomination, at least. So it's kind of, it is kind of just a weird thing. But the years that Planet of the Apes got nominated, which is all three of their movies,
they just had some heavy hitters, man.
They lost to the better movie. Point blank. Like, I'm not choosing Planet of the Apes over Blade Runner visual effects, like, because they were filmed similarly on location. They did the right thing. It was just more so of which one looked better.
Yeah.
So
But
what we're saying is when they do the reboot of Planet of the Apes, 9 times out of 10 they're going to get an Oscar.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that, but
Why not?
We'll see. We'll see who's.
I mean,
If we're gonna
gonna
give Will Smith his legacy award come March, we need to give Planet of the Apes their legacy award for visual effects.
you need to give Andy
think-
Serkis his
Yeah.
legacy award, but not. I mean, you're gonna hate that I say this, but the Rise of Planet of the Apes visual effects aren't that great because it's a big part of the film is the visual, especially in the final act. It's all visual effect. Really, it's so that's what I mean by like Matt Reeves uses visual effects in service to the story, not the part of the story. It's not this big giant epic action set piece at the end. It's just part of the story. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is on the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't fucking blow up the Golden Gate. You can't shut down the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco to film there. You can't.
Yeah.
For probably took a few months to film that entire section. You can't. So that whole thing is visual effects. So it's like that hurts it because visual effects, especially then, it wasn't super great. It wasn't what it was now. And I think it hurts the story. And that's what I mean by like that's that normal quintessential blockbuster. It has to have a big visual effect final battle. When Matt Reeves jumps in, you don't get that at all. It's all human stories. It's all personal, emotional moments that make up the final act.
Which is why I like Rise just a little bit more than War, because I do like my eye candy. In War, the only eye candy in War is like snowfalls, which is cool. It looks great. And you know, that whole scene where they climb up in the trees, super intense. There was a moment there where I thought the orangutan was going to bite it. I thought the little girl was going to bite it too. So, I mean, the ending of War is great, but Rise is just eye candy and it's fun to look at. You're just like, damn, I want to see that ape take down a helicopter. I want to see a cop car get thrown across the field. Like it's good stuff.
Man.
I mean, whenever we watched War for the Planet of the Apes, like I had to verbally just call it, God darn, this movie looks so good.
Yeah, he called it out like 3 times. I was like, I got you, man.
it does. It's just
does.
like the apes looked real in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but in War they looked real, man. Like you can see each fiber of their hair. You can see like the way that the snow interacted with their hair. It's like there's just so much detail, man. There's so much detail. I love it. And then I mean, I'm so glad that you brought up Andy Serkis. I think that he is the godfather for motion capture. I mean, it's his bread and butter, the way that, he's able to create sort of like these realistic movements and, expressions through the characters that he plays or the characters that he directs in Mowgli or Venom, Let There Be Carnage. It's always a treat to watch it whenever Andy Serkis is in the cast. I think that he has a great knowledge for visual effects due to his experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe you guys can help me out with this.
Although Venom's visual effects don't look that great. So
I mean,
sure.
But go ahead, Justin.
I wouldn't even say like it's the effects, the CGI. I love the movement of the characters, especially in that final fight.
To me,
I can't remember
War, like you said, War is more cinematic. But for me personally, I like the look of Dawn more. I don't know why, like just when you look at something like that moment right there, where the door opens and you see the shadow of Jason Clarke as he approaches, it's tall, it's good looking. I don't know if it's lenses, I don't know if it's the camera. I didn't do my technical research, so maybe they used a different camera on Dawn versus War. I'm sure they did, or lenses, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, one's flat and the other scope.
Yeah,
it's completely different cinematography.
So I guess that's what it is. For me, I like the cinematography of Dawn more than War, even though I know War is a better looking movie. To me, I think Dawn it looks better on your eyes. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you guys can help me out and put it in a more intellectual way.
I mean that's all personal preference. I mean, for me, I think War has the iconic shot of Woody Harrelson with the Dutch angle. I just think that's it's just an amazing shot he's blurred out and then he comes into focus and it's just an amazing shot. I mean, me and Jacob had to dap each other up for that. It was like, it was breathtaking. Like, I think I think that is the iconic defining shot of Matt Reeves' career. I was like, it doesn't get better than that in terms of like having this really cool shot. But
why not the tank scene though? Because the tank scene is breathtaking in terms
of
the
whenever they have the I think it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the tank scene whenever Koba is taking over the base
like this.
Yeah, and they got the darn camera on the tank, and it's just you hang on to it. That's what I'm talking about. Is I'm getting ready for something like that with the Batmobile and Batman. Like I think I saw a little bit of it in the trailers, but it's just I think that Matt Reeves has a very particular cinematography. In War for the Planet of the Apes, he was he's paying homage to Apocalypse Now, but he still gave it, his own character and his own style. I'm just excited, man. Like both of those films, no matter what personal preference it comes down to, I think we can all agree that they look breathtaking.
They look better than the first one. I have to throw it out. The first one doesn't have those type of
I'm gonna call up Rupert Wyatt, get him on this podcast so he can defend his work, because you guys are just like, oh, fucking Rise, Jesus.
No, I mean I like Rise. Rise is what set it off. It's just like there's a step up in quality from
I give you that.
There is.
I mean, hey, there's a step up in quality for any movie that's 10 years old, sure. But I think you guys need to rewatch Rise, because I think
I'm not even
talking about CGI. I'm just talking about like, look, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That was a great hook for the franchise. It helped revitalize something that sort of Tim Burton kind of with his 2001 remake, and then with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That got people interested. It was, you can have a movie about CGI apes and you can make it interesting. And then with Matt Reeves, when he comes in for the last two movies, he did something that I don't think anybody thought was possible, is to have a main character be like a completely CGI animal, if for it to be a uniquely human story. That's something that's hard to do. I don't think that, whenever you're looking at Rise of the Planet of the Apes with, Gerald Wyatt or Rupert Wyatt's, direction, that we would have seen if he continued it. I think that it was necessary for this franchise to have that switch up through Matt Reeves' vision.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all three in comparison, if you look at Rise of the Planet of the Apes compared to other blockbusters that come out, it's superior. But if you look at all three of these movies, for me, the final two are even more superior than the first one, just simply because of the personal aspect of Matt Reeves coming in and just dropping his nutsack onto the world and saying, hey, I can do this. You may have forgotten about me. I'm J.J. Abrams' best friend, yada, yada. I've been under J.J. Abrams' wing and his shadow for so long, but here I am stepping on the court, and I'm going to take control. And he did. And even in the third one, he went full on Matt Reeves. He went full. Like, I always tell people, I'm like, Let Me In is not a horror film, because Matt Reeves is like, he's not trying to scare the shit out of you. He legitimately told a very personal story, and he didn't care if he made money or not. He didn't care if it was going to be cool or scare the shit out of people. It was about this amazing story. And he did the same in these two movies. And when you look at Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I have no major issue with the movie, but I have no major love for the movie. It is there. I would rather have seen a Matt Reeves trilogy than to have Rupert Wyatt do the first one. And it kind of, I don't know if the reason why Rupert Wyatt didn't come back for the second and third one.
I heard it's because of time restraints. That basically they wanted to pump out the next one real quick, and Rupert was like, can I have time? And Fox was like, no.
That's good on him. He didn't want to compromise his vision or anything. But I don't know.
He's never done an on-person interview. This was something you read on the internet, so who knows if it's true. But
yeah.
I mean, if Matt Reeves can pump out a script that fast that Rupert couldn't, props to Matt Reeves again.
But I mean, that's where so from what I know is that there was a script in place for the second one, from these two writers. I forget their Rick Jaffa and Ashley something.
Amanda Silver.
And from what I know, that there was a script in place already. And again, yeah, Rupert Wyatt didn't come in or whatever. And Matt Reeves steps in and kind of gives it his taste with Mark Baumbach. And they kind of, throw it in there. And that's what I mean by the second one still has that studio influence, where in the third one, Matt Reeves went straight to work. And that's kind of what he's doing with the Batman, is like they hired him to do Ben Affleck's script. And he said, no, I want to do it my way. And he got the time. This is 5 years later after war, and he'd already been hired for Batman during the press of War for the Planet of the Apes. So he went to work, and I don't think that he wrote a script that fast. I think he made some changes and jumped right into it because there was a script in place. So yeah, I would rather have seen a Matt Reeves trilogy than have Rupert Wyatt. It just there's such a massive change, and if you can't feel that, I don't know. There really is.
No, I could definitely feel it, because that first hour is a human story. The last hour is your action piece. I could feel it. Then when you go into Dawn, it's nothing but just pure human story. I get it. There's something about Rise that like I adore. And again, I can't put my finger on it, but it's the human story.
It's like what you said, you like eye candy. I think whenever I go into, I'm not overly harsh about Marvel films anymore, but again, I used to be, and I'm not overly harsh about blockbusters anymore,
except for Black Widow. That's a steaming pile of shit. That's just a god awful film. No reason. Like you know how everyone says, man, nobody asked for this film. Nobody really asked for a film.
I mean, they were, but
they shouldn't have been listened to.
It was just too little, too late. But real quick, Jake, it'll take me like 10 seconds to finish this point. It was I never mind. Forgot what I was saying. God damn it, Jake. God damn it, Justin. Go ahead, Jacob.
Black Widow. Okay, yeah. So I just did some quick research because I was curious. And Rupert Wyatt, he dropped out because of time constraints. But I read a little bit further. So like something that I was really interested in is sort of his vision for the sequels. And I have a quote. I'm just gonna read it out, and I sort of want to dissect it with y'all. All right, so Wyatt, he says, to be honest, it's not that different, I guess. For me, the majority of revolutions, probably the American Revolution aside, 9 times out of 10, result in civil war. A revolution happens, and then it fragments, and then you have a civil war. So we always set on that path with Caesar and Cuba becoming in the way that Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X of the revolution, and the clash as the result of that as well. I think the fundamental thing I wanted to do, which the franchise will probably do, would be going into the cities, evolve technically, sort of figure out the combustion engine, so in a way they interact with our society. And for me, I found that interesting. And I guess what Matt wanted to do, and obviously it was his first Apes film, was play out the more interim aspect of it, keep them in the forest for longer and stuff, so that the fundamental difference between our takes on it.
Yeah, so Rupert would have gone for your more eye candy stuff, it sounds like, because if he's going into the city, he's going to give you some explosions. So I think if there was a Rupert Wyatt trilogy, you'd get more explosions, you'd get more action versus Matt, which is more human, which I'm not opposed to. Again, I love Matt Reeves, got no hate for the man, but
I mean, I think that sort of where Wyatt is coming from, with where he wants to go is, if you've seen the original Planet of the Apes film, one of the more iconic imagery, along with just sort of like the entire culture of that film as a whole, but the one that stands as a testament is that there's a Lincoln Memorial in Planet of the Apes, but instead of Abraham Lincoln, it's an ape. Yeah, it's an ape with the same like Amish beard that.
Wait, is that not just in Tim Burton's?
I think it's in Tim Burton's too, but it's from like the actual Planet of the Apes movies.
I think it's predominantly Tim Burton, because I remember that was awestruck when, spoilers for that movie, Mark Wahlberg goes back down to Earth and realizes, oh shit, Earth's been taken over by the apes already.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong with which movie it's in. I just know that I've seen the original 1968, and I saw the 2001 Tim Burton one as like an 8-year-old.
Because 1968 is the Statue of Liberty, where he realizes the whole time the planet he was on was not some earthly, or is not some outside planet, it was Earth the whole time. And then Tim Burton's is, I solved the problem up there, now I'm going to come back down to Earth and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Turns out it's full of apes.
Yeah. Anyways, the larger point. let me just finish this one point. I'm just sort of finishing up. I think that Wyatt, he wanted to explore how they developed the culture so fast, while Reeves's was more of a introspective. He wanted to have different philosophies clash, and that's where you get sort of these differences in humanity.
Let's go ahead and wrap up our final thoughts on the Planet of the Apes trilogy, and more specifically Dawn and War, considering they relate more to Matt Reeves, and that is our more specific double feature. I'll go ahead and just start off and let Justin end it since he loves the trilogy. My quick thoughts is, the trilogy is one of the better trilogies to come out for blockbusters. I've already said the final two are superior to the first one, in my opinion. And so it just works so well. And I love what Matt Reeves was able to bring to the table. This is his fourth major film. And he was a relative nobody at the time. He hadn't really done much. He was a writer, he was a producer, and he's JJ Abrams' best friend. JJ had already done Star Trek, he'd already done Super 8, Mission Impossible. JJ Abrams was the guy. And this came out whenever JJ Abrams was filming Star Wars. So Matt Reeves is kind of like getting his feet off the ground, and he just knocked it out of the park. The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is my favorite of the three. If I had to rank them, it would go Dawn, War, Rise, and he just absolutely fucking killed it. I don't really have any other way to explain it, but he really went with the Christopher Nolan route and said, Chris Nolan took on Dark Knight and was like, no, I don't want this to be a gimmick. I don't want this to be another superhero film. I want this to be taken seriously as a film. It's like these movies could have been nominated for Best Picture. They are on the level of The Dark Knight. They are on the level of being taken seriously. You can learn and grow and find so much about these films that you can't really say much about with blockbuster films. It's not your usual entertainment flick. It is a grounded, realistic story that is super relatable, and so many themes that we didn't even get to that runs through these films. So that's why I love especially these final two. Nothing against the first one, but these final two just have such an imprint and connection with me that I am forever grateful. It shows that good blockbusters can still be made out there. So I don't know who wants to take it next, but that's my closing thoughts on it.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. I think what I remember the most about these films, particularly Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, is me watching it as a kid, and just sort of being awestruck. I think that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of those movies that sort of it scared me as a kid, especially with Coppa's unpredictability and sort of that anger that came from him. And it's just it took me in a way to where it made me take this film seriously. And then rewatching it now, as an adult, as someone who's older and has more experience in films, rewatching it and seeing that human connection and the just that heart that comes from it, I think it's something that it will stand the test of time. I think that it's blown this franchise out of the water with just what it is and what it can do and what a blockbuster can be.
And for me, I almost have no issues with this whole franchise. I think this franchise is pretty rock solid from beginning to end. I think when you're going to rank them in terms of that, I think it's just like the Dark Knight trilogy. You're either going to put Batman Begins at the bottom or you're going to put Dark Knight Rises at the bottom. That doesn't mean that you think Batman Begins or Rises is a bad movie. It's just these are such great films that one of them has to go at the bottom. So for me, that bottom movie is War. Do I think War is a terrible film? Of course not. It's a great film. But I would go Dawn, Rise, War. And
it's all personal preference at that point.
Honestly,
how good they all are.
Yeah. Honestly, now I have a question for you, Justin.
Please.
Where do you rank Dark Knight in the trilogy?
Oh, easy. Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins.
Okay, thank God.
Easy.
Sometimes it can be a little scary.
Not to veer off topic.
Because he has these hot takes, man.
I do have hot takes.
I was low-key expecting to say, Dark Knight is the worst one in the trilogy.
Oh, no one's saying
no one's gonna say that.
Okay.
But
if someone ever said that, they literally they should never talk. Never talk once in their life.
Got me scared. I don't know. Justin,
for me, Dark Knight is like that. Even the Harvey Dent story still works for me. And I know people are like, look, if you're going to talk about the weakest link of Dark Knight, it's Harvey Dent. No, I love Aaron Eckhart in that film. I love his whole arc, the whole story. Like that's a flawless film.
I'd say it's the strongest. That's my opinion.
I wouldn't go that far. Come on now.
I love it. Nah, you know what? We need to do a Dark Knight double feature so we can talk about it. And
Dark Knight Trilogy. Dark Knight Trilogy.
We'll talk about it, man. We'll talk about it.
But yeah, no, this franchise is rock solid. It's great. Whether I got a Rupert Wyatt trilogy or a Matt Reeves trilogy, I'm just happy I have a Planet of the Apes trilogy. That's all I'm happy about. I could care less of who's got their hands in it. They just made rock solid movies and it looks great in 3D.
Yeah.
Something you'll never hear from these two, but they look great.
Which leads us into the Batman. Me and Jacob, at least, maybe Justin, we'll see, are
allegedly
one day away, 24 hours, less than 24 hours, I don't know, from seeing this film, from seeing the Batman. It has been my most anticipated movie to come out in so long, so I'm like trying to contain my excitement. I don't really want to do anything until this day comes. I've taken the day off. Like, I am ready to go. And my thoughts, so when Matt Reeves was announced before War for the Planet of the Apes came out, it was like, okay, Don was fucking amazing. Like, that's a cool choice. Like, oh man, I wish I could see Ben Affleck, him direct it, because he's a good director. And it wasn't until War for the Planet of the Apes came out that you were like, okay, this guy is right for it. He is right for this story. And hearing him talk about the film whenever War for Planet of the Apes was coming out, he was still in the early stages of writing the Batman. He was already talking about noir and detective story and all that. And you just got more excited because you're like, we really haven't seen that side of Batman ever. Not once. You haven't seen Batman in a movie be a detective, like legitimately. And as much as we love the Dark Knight, which by the way, I rank Dark Knight trilogy, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. And in the Dark Knight, which is considered the best superhero film and one of the best films and best Batman film, I argue, and I think I argued last week, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this one, Justin, is that's not really even a Batman movie. It has Batman in it. It has a Joker in it. It has Two-Face, but it's not really a Batman movie. We haven't gotten that full-on Batman movie. We got teased in BVS. We got teased. But then you see the trailer of the Batman, and you're like, oh my God, are we actually going to get this? Is this what we've been waiting on, this very dark and gritty Batman?
So where I stand is, look, maybe you guys could correct me, but I'm going to come out swinging. Hot take again. I think I'm the biggest overall Batman movie fan. Is that a hot take?
Well, I mean, I look at that Blu-ray case.
Like, I know, right? Exactly. Like, I love everything Batman related movie wise. And also TV show wise, of course, from Batman 66. But the movies from Batman 66, the one movie, Tim Burton's to Joel Schumacher's to Nolan to Snyder and now to Matt Reeves, I've loved everything. I haven't hated one Batman movie wholeheartedly. Yes, I love Batman and Robin. I think that's a great movie. If you look at it as a continuation, I'll say it loud and proud.
This is the friend that we were talking about in the last podcast.
This is me. Hello, everybody.
If you
look at Batman and Robin,
this is who he is.
If you look at Batman and Robin as a continuation of the 1966 TV show, 10 out of 10. Phenomenal. Love it. The only one I have an issue with is Batman Returns. I don't care for that movie as much, but I think every other Batman movie we've got is literally amazing. So me coming into...
So my Schumacher aficionado.
Yes,
it's Batman Returns. That's the one with
that's Tim Burton.
Batwoman.
It's Tim Burton, Penguin.
Yeah, that's Tim Burton. That's Penguin. That's the Bat, the Cat, the Penguin.
It's Batman and Robin. That's the one with
Freeze, Poison Ivy, Bane, and Batgirl. Like they threw everything in the kitchen sink in that movie.
Yeah,
which I guess is why I like it. Plus, again, we go back to Eye Candy. That movie is neon. It's pretty looking, I would say. Some people would disagree and say it's an atrocity against mankind. I could understand that. If somebody came up to me and was just like, Justin, that's one of the worst representations of Batman ever, I would say, you know what? In the mindset of a Nolan and a Snyder and soon Matt Reeves, yeah, I'd agree with you. It is with one of the worst
Well,
representations.
I guess I can understand where you're coming from because it's like it's more of a golden age Batman,
Yeah.
rather than any others that proceeded. It's just, I mean, I said this before, I'll say it again. I remember whenever I was a kid, and even whenever I was watching Batman and Robin, I was like, I might be 4 years old, but this kind of feels like some shit. Why does Batman have a credit card? A Batman patented credit card.
I like all that stuff. It's fun. And then there's that line where he's like, this is why Superman works alone, or hey Alfred, I'll take drive through. Like, yes, they're all stupid, and they're things that would never work in Nolan, Snyder, or Reeves. They would never work.
They're not meant to be Nolan,
Snyder's.
Snyder's.
It's not even that. That's not Batman. That's not who he is.
But that's Batman 66.
Where it's right there. 66.
I
mean,
I get that, but like you didn't set out to make that type of film. They actually thought they were making a legitimate movie that people could take seriously, and then it came out and it's like, what were you doing?
Exactly. So
I can understand
their intentions could be one thing, but when push comes to shove,
what hurts your movie.
Well, no, because I still think they made a great movie. But I say all that to preface with, I'm such a big Batman fan in that aspect. I love everything about him. So me personally, going into the Batman, I'm super nervous because they're touching my characters that I'm like, look, you're stepping on holy grail material, okay?
You're gonna love it, Justin, maybe.
I promise you guys this. I know you're not gonna believe me. I want to love this movie so bad.
I feel like
this movie is the detective story that Reeves is promising, and he's assembled a great cast of people. I'm excited. I just want to know that this story is going to satisfy me. I'm going to see Batman be a detective. Hell, I don't even play video games, but I've played Arkham City. I kind of played Arkham Asylum, but I loved Arkham City. And when I see Batman use that little detective thing to like open doors and whatnot, the little sonic curve, I don't know what it's called.
But the thing. I
was about to say Doctor Who. Well, if Hayden was here, he could help us out with whatever that thing's called. But I want to see that detective story because we've never got it. Snyder is more of the universe. Nolan is more of a realistic world where he does some detective.
It's gritty thriller.
Yeah, it's gritty thriller. And then Tim Burton is comic booky. Joel Schumacher is very, very Batman 66. So we're finally going to get, like Michael said, the detective story. So in that sense, Matt Reeves, please don't let me down. Like, I have all my money banking on you. So when I see this movie allegedly on Tuesday night or Thursday night, whatever the case may be, when I publish my review, I'm going to come out real. If I don't like something about this movie, I'm going to tell it to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, I loved it. And then you'll hear from me 6 months later and be like, I didn't like it.
I'm just mentally preparing for his letterbox to have like 2.5 stars for the
That's
Batman.
what I'm saying.
I promise you, I want to love it. I do.
But here's the thing. My argument against you is that you had nothing against Batman and Justice League, the original Justice League, the Justice League. You were excited, you were giddy, and you were just like in love with it. And
because the thing they were selling me,
hang on, every human being on the planet hated that movie except for you, and you loved that you got to see Batman in that film. And it's like, that was a terrible Batman in that film.
Yeah,
he wasn't even Batman in that film. He was just some fucking rich dude in a costume at that point.
But what
not
they
even
were selling me at
Whedon
that time,
like that movie.
Well, yes, because hey, look, hindsight is 20/20 vision. What they were selling me back in 2017 is there was never going to be a Snyder cut. It's never coming to you, so don't even fucking think about it. So their logical conclusion was BVS is the dark and gritty. Now we need to move into the lighter, fun version. So at that point in time, if that's what you were giving me, I had to come on board. So that's why I gave a pass to, oh yeah, something's definitely bleeding. Like that line right there. I had to give a pass to it because I'm like, look, that's what they're presenting me. I'm not going to get another Batman movie. I have to take it.
What
do you mean?
That makes no sense. If that's what they're giving you, by that logic, that's what they're giving me for Matt Reeves. I have to accept it. You have to, by that logic, you need to accept Matt Reeves and love it. That's exactly what you just said, Jacob.
That's what you said.
That's not what you just said. You have to accept this. You have to love this. Based on exactly what you just said, you have to love it. This is a 5-star movie in your eyes already, based on what you just said.
I mean, where is
I'm gonna
look,
come back
Justin?
at you. I'm gonna
Justin,
come back.
where is? Hold on, where is this? It just I feel like there's like some sense of trepidation coming from you for this film.
That's what he misses.
If you didn't have that worry and that cautiousness for the Justice League, where is it coming from for Matt Reeves?
Look, let me say this. When that movie came out, I'm gonna be the first person to say it.
You loved
I
it. You gave it 5 stars.
I gave that movie 8 out of 10.
God damn.
Okay. Because again, that movie was eye candy. The color palette of Justice League versus the Snyder Cut is literally night and day.
I need to do some research. I want to see what you gave Taxi Driver on Letterboxd.
I gave it 5. I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm not going to touch my phone.
He did.
Okay.
Like, I love Taxi Driver, but for me, I've wanted a Justice League movie my whole life. I love that
we all did.
It's not a Cartoon Network series. I forget what it is. What was it? Fox? It was like Fox TV or something. Whatever it was, Warner Brothers channel. That Justice League series was phenomenal.
It's amazing.
I loved it. They brought in so many characters that I hadn't even heard of. Okay, so when they gave me a Justice League movie, I was like, if this is the best you're gonna give me, I'll find something to love in it. And I loved the colors. I thought they popped. It was eye candy. I liked the characters they presented to me.
Wait.
I liked.
Do you like the way Justice League looks over Snyder Cut?
Let me explain.
Okay, you know what? I'll give you this.
Hold on.
I'll give you this. At least on Letterboxd, you gave Justice League a 1.5 stars.
Because I don't
That's
think
a little bit of credibility.
I don't think it is a colossal failure. I think it is one of the worst movies ever made, but I don't think it is a colossal failure.
It's a colossal failure if a different cut has to get released in a few years. It's a colossal failure.
Like they wouldn't even do that for Suicide Squad. It was literally just for
we don't know. It could
Zack
happen.
Snyder's.
It could happen. But like
I'm trying to find out though. There is some like classic that everybody loves that you rated like 2.5 or like 3 stars. What was it, Justin?
He's about to go through your whole letterbox.
I'm doing it right now.
He's literally pulling up my old tweets, trying to cancel me. That's what he's trying to do right now.
We'll figure it out later off camera so that we don't have to expose Justin to the world. I mean, maybe we'll do it, on our own with Justin's out here. Just be like, hey guys, guess what? Justin rated this 2 stars and everyone loves this. But no, I have no issue with you wanting to reserve your excitement for this film. I have no issue with that. I think that claiming you're the biggest Batman movie fan, going in, loving Justice League, Ben Affleck's Batman and all that, and not really giving you, it feels like you're not really giving this Matt Reeves movie a chance. And
I'm just saying Rob Pattinson scares me in terms of this character, because when I see, again, like you said, this is a sociopath. It's year 2 of Batman. He's pretty much brand new to this. When I view Batman, I view a hardened Michael Keaton or Bale or Affleck. I don't view, to me, Rob Pattinson is still a teenager at best, like a young adult. Like, I just don't see him as somebody who's like beating up criminals at night because his parents were shot. I just see him as a guy who's like, oh damn, my parents were shot.
He's in his 30s.
Dude.
I just don't see him like that. He's got a baby face. It's like what's that kid's name?
How can you watch The Lighthouse and be like, Rob Pattinson's still a kid,
No, in that movie he's great. But when I see him in the Batman, when I see him in that Batman costume, I'm like, like it doesn't do anything for him. Versus when I see Affleck in that costume and he's big and fucking massive, like
okay, that's apples to oranges. Again, we're talking about year 2. That means timeline wise, he's probably his early to mid 20s. This Batman iteration that we're watching right now.
I know.
You go to BVS, that is like he's about to retire. He's in his 50s. This is an old man. He's tired. All right, that is a veteran versus a newbie to the game.
I know, like there's a great joke that Affleck told when he got the call from Snyder, where he's like, hey man, I want you to play Batman. And he's like, oh great, man. I'm like, 40, like everything's going great in life and things like that, because he was still married to Jennifer Garner. And he's like, no, I'm calling you because I want you to play this dark, depressed, sadistic man who's about to murder somebody in an alleyway, and he's like, oh well, then I'm your perfect guy for that. Like that's a great joke Ben Affleck told. So in that sense, look, again, I'm very excited for the Batman. I love this interpretation of Riddler so far. Like, again, I got major love for Jim Carrey, but I'd like to see a serious Riddler. To me, they're giving me a serious Riddler.
Yeah.
Penguin, I like my Penguin purple, and I like him with a cane. That's just me.
I love Colin Farrell. I actually like the one thing that it's not even a critique for me. It's just I need to see how it plays out. Italian mobs in modern day.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see how it'll play out. I mean, the mob doesn't really have prevalence as much as it once did way back in the 50s, whenever that's what the Penguin was created off of, was the mob and capitalist greed. But I mean, I love Colin Farrell. I love the Penguin. I love Batman.
And again, I know I'm not going to get my real costumes. Like you just said, year 2 of Batman. So therefore, I'm not going to get my purple suited Penguin with his cigar and his cane. I'm getting a pre-Catwoman before she's in like straight up black latex. Like I'm just getting
But you're not.
I don't think that's going to be something.
You won't get that ever in the Matt Reeves series. If he gets his trilogy, which it sounds like he will be, you won't get that ever. It's a different interpretation, just like there's different interpretations in each comic book. It's a different take.
He could do it like Nolan.
What do you mean like Nolan? Nolan has the least Batman.
No, he could do it like Nolan in terms of, hey, look, I don't like this scene in The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's cheesy. But when she's like, hey, I'm looking for this suitcase or whatever, and he's like, try under Joseph Blake, and she's like, nah, we don't have it. And then she's like, try Robin. Like in that part right there, he's hinting at, hey, there's a Robin. So at the end of Matt Reeves' Batman 3, whatever you call Batman 3, if all of a sudden Colin Farrell finds a purple suit, I'm gonna love it. If Catwoman gets in pure black latex, I'm gonna love it.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
If that's what you're expecting, you're already setting yourself up to hate these movies. So
no, I'm not gonna hate these.
That's literally your issue. But
that does raise.
I think
that does raise such a good argument, though. Is, I mean, you look at comic books, or you look at comic book movie fans now, and I think there's something that they try to find what makes this film great, or makes a film great, is how comic book accurate it is, as opposed to the stories and characters and interpretations. I mean, I'm for especially like Peacemaker and Suicide Squad and any Marvel film. What fans of those films talk about is the costumes. Do they get the costumes right? Does it look like the characters? And I think that raises a question of is there a line that we can draw? Is it okay to deviate from comic books and create something that's unique to our own?
And you have to. I think that remember, this is not a studio making this film. We've talked about this with Planet of the Apes. This is Matt Reeves, who wants to do his thing, and you have to be able to give him his own interpretation. That's why he wouldn't take on the Ben Affleck script. It wasn't his thing, and so he wants to do his own thing. Like he was
going to.
I don't think he ever was. He threw that out. They threw that out so quick. That was gone in the first few months of him being announced as the director. That was out the door, and Ben Affleck will see you later.
But they already did screen tests with Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello. Like they already did screen tests, so they had to have something concrete.
There was a Ben Affleck script. There was, but I'm saying when Matt Reeves came on, he wanted to do his own thing. So that's what ended up happening. And so, he's talking about doing a Mr. Freeze in the next one, and I'm like, and hearing his quote, he said, yeah, I think there's a grounded story in that. And I hear that and I'm like, wow, that'd be really cool to see his own interpretation on Mr. Freeze. You don't get the quintessential costume that you got in the other films. You're going to get a more grounded, realistic take. And I think that's a very interesting thing, just like he's doing with the Riddler. He's not giving the green gimmick costume. He's making him like the Zodiac. He's making him a terrifying looking person.
He's making him a serial killer rather than a showman. And I think that's extremely interesting to go to.
if you're not welcoming to that, then you're going to hate this. And that's all I'm saying is you are going to hate this series if you're not welcome to a different interpretation, which is all this is about. Each Batman has had its own interpretation, just like each one has a different suit. Not everyone has the same suit. Not everyone has the same villains. Not everyone has the same style, the same look, the same Gotham. Everyone is different. So if you're expecting a very certain thing that you got in the past, you're going to hate this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying is like, that's unfair to the film. And I think you're like the only person I know that's like, I don't know, I want this, because when that first Robert Pattinson trailer came out, in which during COVID, which they hadn't even fully filmed the movie yet.
Yeah.
It came out and it's like, I'm vengeance, and he's beating the shit out of someone, and it looks so fucking
that
dark
scene right there
and sadistic.
did sell me a little
it's
bit.
gonna it's everyone was sold at that point. Everyone was like, oh my god, the guy from Twilight is Batman, what the fuck?
Well, no, and none of us view him as the guy from Twilight. We all view him as
people do. You're
well,
gonna
but I'm talking us,
this movie
though.
is gonna make a shit ton of money because of how many people were Twilight fans.
No,
it's serious.
Movie,
I've talked to people that have no idea anything about. There's going to be a lot of Twilight fans that go and see this movie because they haven't seen Robert Pattinson since. They haven't seen his smaller stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, Robert Pattinson's back. I'm telling you, there's going to be a big Twilight audience that loves him that's going to go see this film. I've already talked to a few people that could care less about Batman. They just want to see Robert Pattinson.
People, same thing happened for Devil All the Time with Robert Pattinson. That's his first major.
Okay, but this is not Tom Holland, where you have Tom Holland fans going into Uncharted who have never heard of Uncharted. I don't think this is the same thing.
It is.
I think that this will be. I understand where you're coming from, and I think that I agree, because I mean, people haven't heard from Robert Pattinson in a long time. They haven't, seen something that makes them go, oh, okay, so this is what Robert Pattinson is. I think that after the Batman releases, this will be what really brings him back to the silver screen as an A-list actor. I mean, he's had to rebuild his career because of Twilight, and he's had to go from indie film. He did The Lost City of Z. That was like his biggest blockbuster since the Batman. But
no, that's not a blockbuster.
Yeah, that's not a blockbuster.
That's what I'm saying. Is you could that's I would say it's the closest that you could get.
No, he's had to do
Tenet.
something bigger. Fucking Tenet.
Never mind. I'm an idiot. I forgot.
I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
I was trying to think if he had any blockbusters. The closest I could get was Lost City of Z.
I'm like almost positive. I feel like sometimes me and Justin are the only people who have seen the Lost City of Z. Because we saw it together.
And it's got Tom Holland in it as well.
And that was Tom Holland's like last role before he was super famous. Yeah. No, yeah, that wasn't a blockbuster. No one saw that movie. I think the movie that like got him back on the stage was Good Time. That's what like whoosh, and then he came out with Lighthouse, and it was
that's what fast tracked his career and started changing how I would say studios could
audience
see
too.
Could see I mean it was still a low-key movie,
Well, he also did
you had to give him a couple of rules.
He also did 2 David Cronenberg films as well.
Yeah, but those were under the radar.
Those are very indie films, but still, he was working with people outside of the box that weren't.
People may disagree with me on this, but also one that I think helped his career was High Life. It flew under the radar, but again, I think that he's done some pretty smart choices with the independent films that he chose.
He's been doing them for so long, and people hadn't seen him since Twilight, and it was. He's had even interviews lately where he's coming. People were like, "Man, we haven't seen you since Twilight." He's like, "Well, I've always wanted to do these big movies. I just haven't been offered. I haven't been given that chance." And that's what, like, even whenever Robert Pattinson was announced as Batman, the picture that Matt Reeves posted was him as Good Time. In the back of the police car.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the springboard.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, dude, we were still living at mansions at that time. We were not living in mansions. It's a apartment complex called mansions.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really cool thing to be able to see him come back, because I think that Twilight kind of put a bad look on his his acting, even though I think he was good in the film for what he was given. But yeah, I mean,
I also love Twilight as well. That's another hot take. If you look at my letterbox, you'll see my Twilight scores. You'll be like, this motherfucker right here.
One thing I want to close on before I let you guys close on this topic as well is, I mentioned it the other day, but I seriously believe it. It's like if Matt Reeves knocks us out of the park, which a lot of people think he is, if he knocks us out of the park, I think that he's going to be on that level of Chris Nolan, to be able to go get what he wants. Because that, Chris Nolan took on Batman to be able to make Inception. And when he knocked it out of the park, people wanted him to do more. And then he did The Dark Knight and he got more. So you guys are hearing from us, this will be a Tuesday morning, and, less than 24 hours, we'll be seeing the Batman, and hopefully we'll have a podcast up for you guys same day, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. First reactions from me and Jacob, and then maybe we'll do another podcast by the end of the week of kind of completing our thoughts of everything after seeing it probably a few more times. This film is probably our most anticipated movie of the year, which is why it sucks, because it's the first big movie of the year. That means that like every movie that comes after this is going to be kind of a letdown in terms of excitement, but I'm ready. So you guys will hear from us then. But before we go, as always, we promote movie watching. So we'll start with you, Justin. What you been watching lately? And the short answer, what you been watching lately?
Hello. Okay, so I'm only gonna pick 3 of them that I've seen so far. Just 3. Okay, that's it. The first one I saw was Kramer versus Kramer. This is Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep
Great
in it.
choice.
Marriage Story.
I think it is the better version of Marriage. I think it's the Marriage Story that Noah Baumbach wanted to make, and he kind of did. But I think this is like this is the blueprint. I loved it.
This might be I'm not sure how much of a hot take this would be, but I'm not a fan of Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story.
I'm not either.
Okay, I'm glad.
I love Adam Driver.
That released me. I'm so glad we're on the same page.
I've seen it once.
Like it.
I love Adam Driver in that movie, and I don't like Scarlett Johansson in that movie.
I don't know.
I think Scarlett's miscast.
You remember, Justin, whenever we talked after the movie? I liked the movie whenever I first saw it, and we talked because I thought you would love it, and you hated Laura Dern too, and I was like, no, Laura Dern was the best part of this film, and you were like, I was like, she's gonna win the Oscar. And you're like, no, she was horrible. And then what happened?
No, I didn't say she was horrible.
Yeah, you did. You did not.
No, I
like
said
her.
Scarlett was terrible.
No, you didn't like Laura. But
I'm gonna record our conversations from now on, and I'm gonna play it back.
Yeah, please.
But no, I think Scarlett was miscast in that film, but I think Adam was great. I don't know, just that whole story of Marriage Story is really good, but I don't know, it just didn't work for me as a whole.
That's a good double feature day. Kramer versus
it's
Kramer,
great.
Marriage Story. We'll do that one day.
But Kramer versus Kramer, I didn't know this. Maybe you guys don't, so maybe I'm going to ruin this movie for you. But there's behind the scenes drama in that movie that I didn't know going into it until the credits rolled. So if you don't know it, I won't tell it to you.
No, yeah,
but,
don't tell me.
Yeah, so don't do any research about Kramer versus Kramer because it's going to ruin the whole film for you. But I don't know. Knowing what I know now about that film, I don't know if I can love it as much. But I still, like, as that first time watch, not looking at my phone, not doing any research, I dug it. I was captivated. I think that script is really well written. And in all divorce stories, when they get to the court, I mean, I love courtroom dramas. I love The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey. I think that's the best courtroom drama ever. So when they get to, who's going to take care of the kid, all that dialogue right there is punchy. It's good. And the last one I watched was Cyrano. This movie snuck up on me. I had no intentions of seeing this movie. I could care less. Joe Wright, to me, is a director that hasn't really made an impression on me. Even with his biggest movie, Hannah, I didn't really care for Hannah. That's an art house film disguised as a studio blockbuster.
I would say Pride and Prejudice is Joe Wright's biggest film.
Or even Atonement.
Yeah.
But Pride and Prejudice is like
yeah, but I'm talking like big, like a blockbuster movie. Hannah is that movie.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I've never been a huge fan of him. Peter Dinklage, I've actually don't think I've seen a lot of him. I never seen Game of Thrones. I saw him in Underdog, and that was about it. So I was excited to go in for him. This movie surprised me. It snuck up on me, and it's a musical, which I didn't know going in. So when Peter Dinklage starts busting out into song and dance, I was like, well, "Hello there."
Yeah, they really
Okay, I didn't know we were doing this.
I know it's a musical, but they really do not advertise in the trailers that it's supposed to be a musical, like at
Not at
all.
all.
There's a song.
There is a song, but there's like a like
They start
I don't
singing
know.
in the trailer.
It's weird. It's weird. It's just like it's I don't know. Maybe it's just me and how I saw it.
I know what you mean because
It just they focus on the drama rather than the music.
Yes, which the drama of the movie is the main selling point, and I love it so much that Peter Dinklage doesn't think he can get with Haley Bennett because of his stature, his height. So yet he gets this other,
that's fucked up.
whatever you want to call it. So this other dude likes her as well. So he's like, "Hey man, I'll write love letters to Haley Bennett." And so this whole time, Haley Bennett thinks that she's getting like the most intellectual, smart guy out there, who happens to be at a quote unquote normal stature and everything like that. But meanwhile, it's Peter Dinklage ghostwriting all this stuff. And there's a scene on a balcony with Haley Bennett and Peter Dinklage.
That's too much. That's too much.
I know.
But you know, I hate that. You know,
I'm sorry. There's a scene on the balcony that just took my breath away. It has Calvin Harrison Jr., I think is his name. He's in Of Monsters and Men. He was in this movie called Loose. He's so good in this movie. The main three are killer. It's also like one of the best love stories I've ever seen. Like it's so good, and it's shot beautifully. I loved it. When I got home, I listened to the soundtrack. Like I was head over heels for this movie, and I had no intentions in seeing it 24 hours ago. I was dreading it. I was like, fuck, I gotta go see Cyrano. Like God. And then when I walked out of that movie, I was like, if you guys don't see Cyrano, you're missing out on one of the best movies of the year. I don't know if it's gonna make my top 10, but it's going to be like number 11 if it doesn't. I haven't made my top 10 yet, but if it doesn't, we're getting
at this rate. You keep talking, I won't be able to see Cyrano. Jacob, what you been watching?
Yeah, I've been so after we watched Planet of the Apes, I went back. I saw Apocalypse Now. I started watching it.
Hold on. Yeah, that reminds me. I gotta call your ass out. Hold on. In the middle of watching War for the Planet of the Apes, did you fucking go on Letterboxd and rate Apocalypse Now?
Well, yeah, because I knew I was gonna watch it. I knew I was gonna watch it. As I was watching, I went up to go take a piss. Hannah was in the bathroom. I was like, I'm gonna watch Apocalypse Now whenever I get home. Guess what I did? I watched Apocalypse Now. I finished the last 2 hours. Okay.
Wait, can you tell me real quick, what is the definitive version of Apocalypse Now, the final cut?
Final cut.
Okay, because I haven't seen Apocalypse Now in about 4 years, give or take. So if I were to go back and watch it, don't bother with theatrical, don't bother with directors.
I would watch. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to watch it all because there's a story behind each cut. So Apocalypse Now, the original theatrical cut, I'll try to go as fast as I can. That was essentially Francis Ford Coppola put so much of his own money into this film and so much time and effort. He nearly went insane trying to make it, that he knew that for it to be a successful hit at the box office, he needed to make it a little bit more conventional for general audiences. That's what you get with the original theatrical cut. Then the Redux is literally every single thing that they filmed. It's like an extra like 40 to 50 minutes on top of a 2 hour and 40-minute film. And then whenever that came out, he realized that it was too much, that there was stuff that needed to be cut, along with a little bit of color corrections and tweaks from here to there. And so I think that Redux came out 2003, or maybe it was late 90s. I can't remember. But anyways, he made final tweaks with Final Cut, made sure that it exported in 4K Ultra HD. He pretty much found the perfect middle ground between both Redux and Apocalypse Now theatrical cut, meaning that this is more of a definitive cut because it tells the exact story that he wants it without it being too much or too little. I would say, though, it's fun to watch all three so you can see, I mean, if you have the fucking time, to be able to sort of see that journey of this film, because it is a true testament towards the Vietnam War. But like if you're going in blind, I would say watch Final Cut. Anyways, moving on.
So I will say I've only heard I was reading about it because I haven't seen it in a long time either, Justin. So if you want to catch it, let's do it together.
I'll watch it again.
I looked it up. I was like, which version to watch if you haven't seen it in a while or you haven't seen it at all. Which version to watch? A lot of people I read said the theatrical. A lot of people. So I think it comes down to personal. Like I'm gonna watch all three at some point in life, but I've heard that the theatrical is more superior.
Yeah, because it's more of a conventional film. It's not as experimental with what he did.
I get that. Yeah, I'm saying like upon first watch, it's the shorter version. It gets the gist of the story. I'm gonna watch the theatrical first. And then watch the final cut. Because I think if you watch the final cut first and then the theatrical, you're just losing footage at that point. So it's like the movie can't get worse or better for you at that point. I think you should watch the theatrical first, in my opinion.
The biggest thing that you'd be missing with the final cut versus the theatrical is there's a scene with like Frenchmen who live in the Vietnam jungles. It's sort of
spoilers.
Oh my God, it's not even spoiling.
Why is you spoiling it right now?
No, so anyway,
not. The balcony scene in Cyrano is amazing.
That's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. What else?
Anyways, are you watching Gone Girl? And man, David Fincher, this is a known thing for him. With sort of how he directs actors. It was especially prevalent in Social Network. Is how he wants to make sure that every single character in the film is in their own mindset. And I think that Gone Girl, it shows especially I think there's big divides. Like he comments a lot on sort of gender roles and what should a woman and a man do in a relationship, and trying to puzzle piece together this perfect facade of a relationship. And it goes through with a anniversary treasure hunt murder. I love the way that he constructs the characters in that film. I would love to be able to fully dissect this film in a podcast episode one day. But I remember I really liked Gone Girl whenever I first watched it, and then whenever I was rewatching it again, I loved Gone Girl. I need to see if the Blu-ray has commentary. I haven't checked the special features for it.
It does, because that's the infamous moment where he's like Ben Affleck, how Ben Affleck was trying to wear some other sports team's hat.
He's Ben Affleck's a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
David Fincher wanted him to wear a Yankees hat, but Ben Affleck would not. So David Fincher in the commentary literally says Ben's lack of professionalism. We gave him a Mets hat, and I'm like, oh my God, he literally just shitted on Ben Affleck like to the world. That's so fucking crazy. So when you're watching the movie, the scene where he's at the airport and he's wearing a Mets hat, that's supposed to be a Yankees hat, and they fought. It got so deep to where like producers and agents and legal people had to get involved.
Oh, damn.
And they chose the Mets hat. They were like, that's the compromise. Like, David Fincher's not going to compromise, and fucking Ben Affleck's not going to compromise.
No, you know what, Boston fan. It's not going to. That's your average Boston fan. That's what makes it so funny, man.
I respect the hell out of Ben Affleck for that.
Me too.
I personally would. I'd be just the same because I take.
Yeah.
So wait, is Yankees like the middle ground between the two?
No, the Mets.
Or Mets.
Boston fans hate Yankees.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the
then is the Mets the middle ground?
I guess. Yeah, because it's in New York. It's New. I think that David Fincher, he just cared that it was a New York team. And so the Mets was just that middle ground because it's not as strong of a rivalry as it is for the Red Sox and anyways. So other than that, I watched with Mike yesterday The Godfather. I said Gone Girl. The Godfather in Dolby for the 60th anniversary or 50th. 50th, yeah. 1972, my bad. It's so beautiful, man. It's so beautiful. I love Francis Ford Coppola. I don't think that he gets this, like, I feel like this might get a weird look if I say this, but I feel like, even for somebody who's done Godfather 1 and 2 and Apocalypse Now, I don't think that he gets as much respect or credit where it's due as a director, especially in new Hollywood cinema. Everybody knows that he's great, but whenever you talk about the greatest directors of all times, I think that more often than not, he gets shunned to the side as a director, which for me isn't fair. I know I'm getting a weird look right now, but I don't hear his
That's
name
his
in
own
conversations as
That's
much
his
as
own
I should.
fault. That's his own
Sure,
fault.
sure.
The what? You're talking about the five, George Lucas, Scorsese, Spielberg, Brian De Palma, and Francis Ford Coppola. 3 out of the 5 pretty much stepped away from directing. So when you're talking about our generation and people that are watching movies now, it's like they don't really have a line of work in the last 20 years. You know who does? Spielberg and Scorsese. So it's like you're constantly able to evaluate their work because they haven't stopped.
What was the last Coppola film?
I want to say, well, I know that Jack is what made him really want to step away from directing. He did The Rainmaker. Did he do The Rainmaker? Or
I can't tell you.
Yeah, I know he did. He did The Rainmaker. I think it was
What is
The
the last
Rainmaker.
Coppola film?
I think it was the Rainmaker.
But anyways, finish your point about Coppola.
I just love him as a director, man. I think that he's such a detailed artist with his work. There's such a distinct love that he puts towards the cinema. One thing that I did not notice as much, that I noticed a lot more in this film, was that 70s racism. It popped up. It was just little comments every now and then, but like,
bro, we talked about that last podcast.
I know. I just didn't notice it. And then like I started watching and I was like, God damn.
That's one of my favorite parts about our podcast last one. We were all like, yeah, it wasn't a 70s movie if you didn't have racism in it. Like, it just wasn't. Like, you had to throw in your N-words. You had to make fun of Asians. You had to make fun of some other race that's not white if you had a movie in the 70s. You just had to. Yeah. It literally comes up in every single 70s movie. Somehow, some way. It just comes up. It is so
I just put on like my fucking filter whenever I was first watching those movies. It's just like such little quick comments. And after this, whenever I was watching, I was like, Jesus, I didn't think it was in this movie.
The last Coppola film is a film called Twixt with Val Kilmer in a ponytail.
Cool.
So
yeah, but he walked away from the studios, so he's kind of like financing his own stuff, and so that's why no one's really seen it, because that was part of his interview that he just had. He walked away from the studio center. He doesn't. His next film is apparently going to be $120 million of his own dime.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. I don't think that he gets disrespected like you were. I don't think you said that, but I don't think he gets the same notoriety just simply because he walked away from the stage. He let his kids take over in terms of the spotlight. Roman Coppola, Sofia Coppola, he let them have their time, and he just stepped away. Same thing with Brian De Palma. They kind of just walked away. Mm-hmm. And George Lucas only stays famous because of Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, he does producing work. But when did Twixt come out, Justin?
2011. So
when did Val Kilmer step away from acting?
Pretty much around then. You got to watch that documentary on Amazon.
I need to. It's such an interesting story.
Yeah,
with him and Val Kilmer.
What else you been watching?
Right now, that's been about it. I've been getting back into watching movies a lot more frequently. It's still just finding that balance between work and school life, along with my movie life.
I'll be kind of quick, so we can wrap it up. And so I watched, during the snow, we were at home, watched both the Magic Mikes, because I think the third one got announced, and I was like, you know what, these are actually really fun. The first one I absolutely love. The second one is okay, but I love the story of the first one. So I can't wait for the third one. Then I'm finally catching up on all the Oscar films slowly but surely, and I finally watched The Power of the Dog. I think, as I had said on a previous podcast, maybe I haven't, but kind of the story, what I've been hearing about that film before I watched it was like, it takes a minute to get to where it's going, and once the movie reveals itself, it gets good. And that's exactly what happens. Like, the first hour is kind of like, you're just watching these people. And then once the story reveals itself very subtly, if you don't pick up on it, I mean, that's kind of, you definitely can pick up. It's not said, it's shown, but you can pick up on it, and it reveals itself. And yeah, it got really interesting. And the ending, I didn't really like the ending that much. The movie is shot really well. It's a very beautiful film. But I think that the first hour is just kind of And so personally, I know it's been winning a lot and people think it's going to win Best Picture. If it wins Best Picture, I won't be upset, but it's going to be like, man, I feel like there was, Coda should have won over that. And, I know Coda kind of has no chance to win, but I mean, after last night, maybe it does. But yeah, it just kind of, it's interesting, keep watching. You might be bored the first hour, but keep watching. But once it reveals itself, keep watching. And I'll leave you with this. This is not a spoiler. It's just there. It has two genres: drama, I guess it's a Western, and romance. And I'll leave you with that. It is not what you think it is. So then I watched The French Dispatch, which I was kind of upset with, simply because, Wes Anderson's my guy, and I just wasn't emotionally attached to the story. It's an anthology type story, and it just happens, and you walk away from the film, and it's like, okay. And if you don't know that it's based on a true story, true events, and if you don't really know the full story, it's kind of whatever. But because it's Wes Anderson, it's still like, it's directed really well. It's Wes Anderson.
That Wes Anderson film, I feel like the most Wes Anderson film to be a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
That's kind of what took me out of it. It's like it reminded me so much of Grand Budapest Hotel, which is sort of like how it was structured and how the sets were created.
It's that exact thing.
But yeah, it's just I wasn't magnetized to it like I was Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't think it was a flop per se, but also no. I think another thing that sort of hurt it is just, whenever it came out, it sort of it breezed by. It wasn't, an event that these directors with their stature should have had. But okay, yeah. Oh, hold on. One thing I forgot. I wanted to mention it, but just we're talking about the Batman. I just would have realized it. I think that there was a trifecta of films that got delayed because of COVID, and tomorrow I think that we will finally complete that trifecta. It was Tenet, then Dune, and then the Batman. Tenet was delayed like
Top Gun,
3-ish, 4-ish months. Top Gun,
Maverick.
I'm so hyped for
Tenet. Wasn't in that because it only got pushed a month. It was supposed to come out
came out August.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out July 20th, and it got pushed a month because Chris Nolan said, "I'm going to say."
It was a long month, man. It was a long month. We were waiting to go back to work.
He said he was going to save movie theaters, but he didn't. It was Dune and the Batman, mainly.
Dune, the Batman. Okay, you know what? Fine. If we want to make the trifecta, then it's like 3. 3 is the magic number. We'll do Top Gun, Justin. You win.
All right, we got to wrap this up. I also watched Belfast, which is okay. I'll tell you guys off screen, but that'll be it for us. I want to thank Justin for coming on. It's been a fun, long podcast. I can't wait to put this all together. As usual, thank you, Jacob. And we'll see you guys hopefully tonight whenever we talk about the Batman. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.